Yeah, Brian, let me know when you're ready. There you go. All right. All right, Marco, I'll hand it off to you.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order. Trustee Morocco?
Here.
Here, okay. Roll call. Trustee Martin?
Here.
Trustee Alvarado?
Present.
And Trustee Vargas?
Here.
And Trustee Markov is present. So we acknowledge, I'm sorry? Oh, yeah.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, land acknowledgement is, we acknowledge the Yom Kawishim, the people of the West, as the traditional land caretakers of the land on which Vista Unified School District was built and its surrounding traditional cultural landscapes. Today, the Payam Kawishim are known as Lusenyo and are made up of 7 bands: La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pachanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Saboba. We, Vista Unified School District, are mindful of the indigenous peoples in this place, and we pay our respects to the Lusenyo, past, present, and future. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community in Lusenyo territory and to honor their history, culture, and perseverance of spirit. So we have a report of actions taken in closed session on July 17th, 2026. The board in closed session by unanimous vote took action to reject claim 2627-01 as recommended by the district's third-party property and liability administrator. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Point of order, I think there's an agenda item that needed to be pulled off.
It's consolidated, we'll do that
Okay.
later.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I move that we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, we'll move on to item 5A. We have some hold cards. Get the right spot. We'd like to invite Maria Mancove, I think I said that?
Mancourt?
Mancourt, yeah, come on up.
Good afternoon, judges. I'm sorry, good afternoon, board members. My name is Maria Michael. I'm with ENS. I currently hold a position with the CSEA as second vice president. And I would like to introduce my fellow members. Rita Manzano from Casita, Teresa Sheldon from Brazil, Wendy Harris from Vida, Maria Sepulveda from Alamosa, and Alejandrina Ibanez from Vida. I just wanted to introduce them. Thank
Yeah,
you
welcome.
for your
Thank
time.
you. And next, Kevin Ash.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in the public forum. I understand I have 3 minutes, but I'll probably only need 30 seconds or so. I'm Kevin Ash. My family and I live in the Shadow Ridge area of Oceanside, which is within the district's territory. My wife went to Vista High. We bought our house 2 years ago in July 2024. And when you're looking at a house, it's a major investment in today's economy. The first thing you're looking at with kids is what school district are they going to go to? Our daughter's 4 and she's going to be entering TK in August, but unfortunately we're on the wait list at Lake Elementary School. This is unfortunate because we're a quarter mile away and we can literally see it from our backyard. There's 3 other families in the neighborhood that are similarly on the wait list. And I understand this is a voluntary program, it's not a state mandated one, so I understand your hands may be tied in certain respects, but staff at the school have been tremendous, very transparent in providing updates. But it's still not clear to me in this contingency that I'm speaking on behalf of why there is a wait list for TK right down the road. Is it a physical expansion issue? Is it a teacher shortage salary issue? So I wanted to bring this light. It's very, middle school TK, we're about as lowest as you can get on the totem pole. And I understand it's not a state mandated program, but I wanted to highlight this for the board's attention to apprise you of it and hoping other members of staff also understand it. I also understand you can't take action on non-agendized items, but it would be really, I implore you, if you could direct staff to look into this to see if we can free up some capacity. And the last thing I'll say is, the only reason this is an issue is because, for people in my situation, it's like, do we keep the kid in preschool for an extra year, which is substantially costly now? Or do we put them in Breeze for some families or Honolulu and others? Nothing against those schools, but it's just a situation where you could be exposing a child to a TK program for, a year, and then they end up at another school for their actual kindergarten session. So I understand this is probably a complex issue. I'm not sure if you're apprised of it, but I did want to voice to see if there's anything you could do and direct staff to look into for this issue. So that's all my public comments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. We're gonna move on to item 6A, report from school-related organizations, and we have a VTA here.
I don't believe we have ETA tonight.
Okay, do we have the CSEA? All right.
Brian, is the microphone here? I'm not sure the mic's on. Yeah, okay. Want to make sure it was on.
Yes, good evening, school board members. Today there is a CSEA report. So I do want to start with informing the board that since May, we started our bargaining sessions with the district. And I'm happy to say that in our first session back in May, we actually TA on 2 articles, and I just want to elaborate on those. So the first one was Article 16. This is on safety conditions and employment. Specifically what it was is increasing who also gets a safety footwear stipend. Currently, the people that receive a stipend for the footwear, it includes maintenance and operations, which include custodial staff and mechanics. So we wanted to expand it to include our employees that work in the warehouse. And so that was something that we TA'd on. Another article was Article 14, transportation. Specifically, the language there was creating 2 bidding lists for drivers, which would include the white fleet. So having a separate bidding list for those just only driving the white fleet, not the school buses or yellow buses. This is an anticipation of creating a new job description in the future. So kind of avoiding an issue coming up as that becomes a new job description. So those are the 2 TA articles that we agreed on the first session. Success. But I also want to just keep you in the loop on other items that we continue to negotiate. One is increasing the stipend for mechanic tools. And our mechanics are responsible for paying for their own tools to upkeep our buses. And so it's been a while since we've not increased the stipend. If they're going to be investing their own money in being able to do their work. Mind you, they are the only job classification that has to pay for their own tools to get the work done. And then another item is adding the professional development days that the district has provided to classified employees every school year. We currently have an agreement as a memorandum of understanding. So we would like to include now this amount of days into our contract. Another item was a language that would explain or detail the training requirements for our, what we call our qualified bilingual staff. These are the individuals that are assessed on their bilingual skills and then utilized as interpreters and translators at their school sites or departments upon receiving training. So this language would then clarify what is the type of training that they need to receive in order to do this work, work as interpreters or translators. Another one that I'm really excited about to continue negotiating and discussing and collaborating with the district is expanding our professional growth program to include the trades. So basically creating an apprenticeship program for maintenance, just because we see that there's a high demand for filling trade positions, and they're very difficult to recruit individuals to come work for a school district. So why not work with, you know, building up your internal staff, the people that you have that might want to seek out these opportunities and become a professional in the trades. So those are just a few highlights. So I'll keep the board updated on our progress. But this is a year that I'm really excited about all these items that we'll be negotiating. Another item I want to bring to your attention is following up on a public comment or statement made by a fellow CSEA sibling, a sister, Marlene Lopez. She is the senior payroll technician. She talked to you all about their experience as employees and how overwhelmed and understaffed they are. But I also what I want to do tonight is talk about why a fully staffed payroll team matters for students. So I'm not going to list all of them, but one, it protects vulnerable student programs. Student services depend on employees with specialized skills. Payroll errors affecting these employees can lead to vacancies or delayed hiring. This affects students who rely on these services. Two, it reduces administrative burdens on school leaders. When there's a payroll issue, principals, managers, or including HR staff might spend valuable time resolving pay disputes instead of focusing on teaching, learning, and student support. An adequately staffed payroll department minimizes these distractions. Three, it builds employees' trust and morale. Employees who are paid correctly and on time are more engaged and focused on serving students. Errors can create and can cause stress, reduce morale, and affect job performance. And I don't need to elaborate on this one. I think all of you have been employees and rely on a paycheck. So if you're not paid on time or correctly, you understand the time and effort it takes to resolve that issue. So supporting a payroll department ultimately supports students. So I do want to emphasize that when a classified employee makes a comment to the board, this means that they follow the chain of command and you're the last resort. And I will say that we have discussed this with the district about what is the payroll department transition plan, because we knew that they're not filling the vacancies. And our understanding is, yes, there's two positions that have been shifted. Explanation is about, during COVID, there was a lot of work, there was a lot of funds. Those funds no longer exist, or they're not the same. And perhaps there's less programs and so forth. But I want to ask the board of the following. So there's an action, right? Let's assess the current demand of the work, like right now, right? Because Marlene mentioned there's a lot of overtime work. The district pays more on overtime work than if you hired a full-time employee. So assess how much overtime work they're doing. Now, let me tell you, I've spoken with these employees, especially Marlene, and when I say, hey, overtime is optional, she says, Marcela, we cannot not do overtime. People need to get paid. That's a valid point. I get it. So I understand if you come up and say, oh, it's optional. In reality, it's not, because it's going to affect a lot of employees. So please do your due diligence, inform yourselves as board members, understand what is the structure, where are the gaps, and most importantly, let's collaborate. Treat these employees as adults, as valued employees, and not keep them away from knowing information. Transparency. That's what we talk about. Transparency builds trust. So if the district has a different plan or different, a different solution. They just need to be informed. Keep them in the loop. Don't keep them hidden away from them guessing what's happening, because then they're gonna keep coming back to the board and asking for your support. So CSE is asking for your support. Please do your due diligence, ask your questions, understand what is the structure that's happening in the payroll department, because it does impact every single employee in this school district, both certificated administration and classified staff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have a report from the district DLAP?
No, no,
No,
no.
not tonight, okay. So I guess we'll move on to item 7A.
We're available to answer any questions should you have questions.
Oh, goodness.
Dr. Loescher, last week I talked to you about this vendor Janet Julian Designs, and I see that there's another purchase order for them. I'm still waiting for the contract of May 15th, 2025, so that I can look at the POs that we talked about. This number, this 4,300, is very similar to something that was in revolving cash. I've never seen an item that big in revolving cash. Is this the same?
So an item in revolving cash typically means that a check was lost in the mail or stolen.
Okay.
And so a check had to be issued. I can check on this for you. I believe it's the same item. But what happens on revolving cash oftentimes, if a check is lost or stolen in the mail, we issue it almost immediately. So that way they're not waiting further for the check. It comes out of Fund 1 in revolving cash, but then it gets reimbursed from other funds. In the case of Ms. Julian, all of her items actually were from developer fees, not from the general fund for work outside of the scope of that May 15 contract. But we will get you a copy of the contract. Also, just important to note, not as it pertains to her work, on amounts of $4,000, no contracts required as a purchase of a service. So there isn't necessarily a contract to look for that. Both all of the PO information has been provided to me, so I can provide those answers.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? Can we entertain a motion to approve the ratified purchase orders?
I move that we approve 7A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Motions, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, item 7.
In order to avoid the appearance of impropriety, because I own stock in one of the companies, I will be
Okay,
abstaining.
one abstention. Okay. Then we'll move on to item 7B, approval of the 2026-2027 local control and accountability plan of the federal addendum. We can have a motion.
I move that we approve item 7B, the approval of the 26-27 LCAP federal addendum.
Second.
Any discussion, questions, comments about it? We have no, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, item 7B passes. We move on to item 7C, approve substitute teacher pay rate schedule effective July 1st, 2026. Is there a motion?
This one might be helpful for a
What
quick.
do you want to, okay,
If the board's comfortable.
sure.
So this agenda item is brought back from last month, which provides another option for the board to consider considering a temporary rate increase for this year. Next year, we most likely will have to look at an ongoing permanent increase or settling on a rate. And so the board was provided with some daily rates on the surrounding districts. This provides a recommendation of another option, either to maintain the temporary increase that we had the last year, or to also increase $10 a day.
in alignment with other districts, it's typically a 5 or a 10 on top of those daily rates. And in this case, we increased all of them, all of the rates by 10.
So it is my understanding, Ms. Ambroso, that this option 2, should the board choose to go with it, it would put us slightly above the other districts.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve option 2.
I'm going to leave the room because my husband's a substitute teacher, so I'm gonna recuse myself.
Yeah,
That's,
you can recuse yourself.
yes.
As long as you don't influence the vote, you're fine. You can stay there.
Oh, I can stay there.
As long as you don't
Okay.
influence the
Well,
vote, you just
then,
can't say
okay,
anything.
fine. I recuse myself then.
I'm sorry, Cipriano.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve option 2.
Second.
Okay, is any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I mean, just to
Discussion.
provide some commentary, we increased salaries for our teacher, our classified staff. And I think, and our administrators for that matter. And so in order to, be competitive, but also, try to, aim at providing a living wage for our employees, I think this is a good thing. Especially those that, go into the substitute role and then find other roles within our school district and, could be also too for incentivizing recruitment in other positions. So with that, happy to make this motion.
I love it. Okay, any other comments, questions? All right,
Chris, do you have your first and second?
Yes, thank you.
okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
One.
One abstention. All right. Okay. Move on to item 7D, approved resolution 227-11 to piggyback on the Omnia contract awarded to Waxy Enterprises.
And move that we approve item 7D, approve the resolution 2711 to piggyback on the Omnia contract awarded to Waxy Enterprises.
Second.
All right, is there any questions or comments, discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Item 7D passes. Okay, we'll move on to item 7E, approved resolution 27-12 to piggyback on the Sourcewell Master Agreement awarded to National Card Charging LLC.
I move that we approve item 7E, the resolution 2712 to piggyback on the Sourcewell Master Agreement awarded to National Car Charging.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Sure.
I don't see a cost in there or a not to exceed, is there one?
No, so this is a piggyback alone. This is for facility projects, so the cost would be bundled inside of the project when it comes to you. And just for clarification, we currently have a district standard for a charger. This is not a change of that district standard, it's just a change of vendor. So you'll see EV chargers come to you within a project budget, and then this would be the company that supplied them.
Thank you, I understand.
Thank you.
All right, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. Item 7E is passed. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Agenda items 8 through 13, all matters listed on the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, the staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. Superintendent and staff recommend approval of all consent calendar items. And I understand we're
Pulling for further discussion, item 10A.
okay. Item 10 will be pulled.
All of NA or just one?
To pull them all for
Okay.
discussion, then you'll approve the modification.
I have two items to pull.
Okay.
9B and 13G.
I have 2 items to pull,
Okay,
of A and 13A.
all right, so, we'll have,
I move that we approve the consent calendar. With
less the.
less the items.
Would you like to
Let's
read them
repeat
out?
them.
Sure, I'll read them out. So the approval will be pending pulling of item 9B, 10A, 12A, 13A, and 13G.
I move that we approve the consent calendar, less those 4 items, 5 items.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Consent calendar is passed, less the pulled items, so we'll move on to item 9B.
So my son is on this classified register, so I think that it's I should abstain. So that's why.
Totally appropriate.
It's a family affair for me tonight.
All right.
It's good.
So, we will,
You
Go
would
ahead
have to,
and
you'd
just-
have to vote on that
Okay.
item right now.
so, we'll vote on item 9B. All those in favor?
No, we need a motion.
We-
Oh, you need a motion, I apologize. Okay.
I move that we approve 9B.
Second.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention.
One abstention.
Sorry, I didn't even speak for you.
No, it's fine.
All right.
It's fine.
So then we'll move on to item 10A.
So based on previous conversations, the recommendation of the board in closed session is to move forward with the approval of all students identified here with the exception of one. And that student that we would remove from this approval process is B 23-2023-24.
Move that we approve 10 minus, with the exception of B 23-2023/24.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, move on to item 12A. Items pulled, yes.
So this is regarding new high school courses, and I'm looking at, I'm concerned about VVA, Vista Visions Academy. Particularly with the social studies courses and particularly with ethnic studies. So as I was reading through it, it says that their advisory teacher, regardless of their subject, will be teaching this. Ethnic studies requires a social studies teacher. It really does. And so I know that Vista Visions is an online academy. I don't know if, I don't understand their advisory, so is this when the kids come in and they get assistance or?
It's the teacher they're connected to for their hours and keeping their logs.
And is there a credentialed social studies teacher available
There is,
on campus
yes,
at all times for them to answer questions?
yes. It may not be their advisory teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so with this form of, is this all online for Vista Visions, or do they come in for a personal classroom
It's
instruction?
pretty much all online. They can come in for appointments.
But all three of these are, two of them are social studies, and, that is my area, so yeah, I find that a little disconcerting.
Yeah, the students primarily, in the model, they primarily do their work through Edgenuity.
Huh.
So it's just like when we run Edgenuity at the comprehensives, the teacher facilitating doesn't necessarily have a credential all the time in that area.
Have you looked at the curriculum for this course? It's pretty complex, especially for ninth graders, and especially without an instructor to explain the movements.
Yeah, I understand.
Is there any way that we could, I'm very concerned about having ethnic studies at an online school.
Okay.
Can we look into that?
Trustee Martin, what I'm hearing from you, I just want to make sure we follow up on your concerns, is that you would like more details about what supports we would put in place in the event that we offer this in an online environment so the kids have sufficient access to the material.
Some of this material, usually taught in 11th grade
Right.
or in 12th grade,
More sophisticated.
is very sophisticated. And for a ninth grader, which it's now labeled as ninth grade, without any kind of, I hate to say expert, but anybody credentialed in this area that understands the background and the conflicts, this is going to be, this would be in some, I was looking at the curriculum and I thought without a teacher in the room, this could be a little hard for them to deal with. without explanations.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'd like us to look sincerely at this curriculum
Okay.
and decide if that is something that they should be able to fly on their own with on a computer.
So what we'll do is we'll work with Dr. Segala and the team, the teachers over there, and get back a summary of kind of the complexity and how we propose to support our students. I hear what you're saying. I'm very familiar with that curriculum as well, when RBB designed it, so I'm
Yes.
very familiar with it.
So should we make the motion to approve all the other ones less those
Well,
two?
let's finish. I think we have further discussion. I think.
But we do hear what you're saying, and we will get back to you a summary with details around your concerns.
So, I wanna know more about the Edgenuity and how, if every state or every region adapts ethnic studies to, since it's not a mandate right now, it's not a mandate.
It is.
No, it's not a mandate.
It was unfunded.
It was
so it's no
unfunded.
longer a mandate.
And so many communities will look at like what, stakeholders, what their student composition is, the population, and adapt it to that. And I would like to know what ethnic groups they are learning about and how it relates to like Southern California or the students that we serve. And yeah, what that looks like, because Dr. Doyle, you mentioned that, there was an instructor at RBV that created the
It was
program. Yes,
designed
she
at
did,
RBV.
but that might not be Edgenuity, right?
Oh,
That-
no.
Right, so,
Correct.
And it
So
was
I-
fourth grade.
so I do wanna know more about it, but at the same, on the same token, I won't pull it. I don't wanna pull it because this is a curriculum that really engages students when they learn about ethnic studies. It's proven that marginalized students, when they learn, enroll in ethnic studies, they do better in school, they wanna stay, they're more likely to go to college. So I'm not, I don't wanna have it removed from this item, I don't.
Dr. Shigella, is this ethnic studies the same as RBB at Vista High School as Mission Vista?
No,
Why not?
it's the Edgenuity version of it. And so there's been a district task force, which has been working on ethnic studies, and they actually reconvened this summer to revise and review what they're offering in the elective versions. And so we offer ethnic studies in multiple ways. One, there is a standalone called ethnic studies. There's also like Chicano studies, there's AP African American studies. And then I met with the leader of the teacher task force this week, just on Monday or Tuesday, and we had a discussion around also how do we not just have standalone classes, but how do we ensure that our history and social science classes and even in English are embedding the themes and ideas to ensure that marginalization is addressed and that kids can see themselves in the curriculum across the board and not just a standalone class that they might sign up for.
Got it. So ethics so just can also be incorporated into like a literature and art class.
Absolutely.
Curriculum and the books
Yep.
and authors. It can be embedded into science and innovation of like the scientists that, created, work in the history of the United States.
The ideal model wouldn't be an ideal class. The ideal model would be really thoughtful and intentional implementation across the curriculum by highly engaged teachers who get and understand the severity of the topics that they're dealing with.
Got it. And in addition to like our, twice a day curriculum, how they collaborate, just to like share, those ideas. I know it's hard when you're a single ethnic studies teacher at Mission Vista, and, you're not seeing and talking to your peers at Vista High or Mission or Rancho Buena Vista. So are they collaborating in that sense?
Yeah, they're collaborating across sites. We provided timesheet dollars for them to meet this summer. In August, we set up that I'm going to be meeting with them. They're also working with consultants to help plan out and measure it. And so Candace Cordes is the lead from Vista High of the team right now.
And from our implementation over the last couple of years, I know they have increased, so. Is it increasing and kids are enjoying it, or is it like, I'm guessing it's increasing, but or is it staying stagnant, or are we decreasing in the number of students taking ethnic studies? I know we also have increased opportunities both the Rancho Buena Vista and Vista High for students to take more courses, but it's their choice with what they want to do.
Yeah, what we could do, because I don't want to, I have a hunch, but we can get you the actual numbers over the years per course.
Got it.
and by site.
So just to reiterate, I heard two major points of feedback that we will follow up on. The first point came from trustee Martin, and that is the level of sophistication and how are we, if we were to implement this, what supports would be in place to ensure that. And then the second one I heard from trustee Alvarado, and that is to make sure that the ethnic studies courses represent the communities and the ethnicities for which the students interact with here locally. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's really brings relevance to
Right.
what they're learning. And I would also like to know from this committee of high school teachers across the district, like, their perspective on that, because I understand what you're saying, trustee Martin, in terms of how complex it is, absolutely, and that's your passion and that's your expertise. But we could, you know, argue that if the person's, the advisory teacher's a math teacher, they shouldn't be overseeing English 10H or one of the other subjects as well. But it is Vista Visions, and it's the model that these students or the parents chose. So then how do we find that balance, bringing them the resources that they need to thrive? But if it's a braided type of program or hybrid, if you will, they can come in if they want, we can't make them come in, right? We can't make the kids come in, or do we make them come in? No, we can't. So how do we find that balance, right? Because this is a population of students that want to attend, or their parents want them to attend this way. So how do we find that balance, giving them the support that they need?
Do you have a suggestion?
Cool.
Move it to a higher grade at Vista Visions after they've had US history and world history. And then they will have the background, especially with US history, because a lot of these are civil rights movements, which were very violent. And I don't think we should just be plopping that on these kids.
That's why it was
Without-
designed at RBB
Right.
at a higher level.
So, and there's many other things that are in there. And so if we move it to 12th grade, they'll have the background and at least have some sort of jumping off place to at least grab onto, to understand, okay, so this is just going into more depth.
What I could do too is when the teachers return, I could talk to that team about why they selected that grade level. And I would love to provide that information back to you.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to lose their voice and I don't know why they made that choice.
Well, I would just say about the violence, our students live the violence. They're seeing the violence every day in our community against, I can say right now, brown and black communities, right now Latinos being shot and killed. So trying to shelter them and wait 2 or 3 years so that they don't see the violence. It's happening every day. It's here. It's here in Southern California. It's here in California. It's here in the United States. So I don't think we should shelter our students from the reality of what's happening across this nation right now.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that you wait and allow them to have the what we would call the blanket coursework of US history and world history, because some of these are world issues. They're not focused just on the United States.
Right.
And so with the background, they'll be, I think they'll be better prepared if there's not a social studies teacher available.
I also think it's important that we keep in mind that we want our students, I get both sides of this, because it's like, yes, we want to expose our children to this, this aspect of history, as soon as possible, but at the same time, if they're not prepared to understand everything that led up to it, they might miss out on the message, and then we're kind of shortchanging them. So I kind of agree with trustee Martin about, preparing them with the basics of world and United States history to give the proper context of ethnic studies. But I mean, that's, to me, I think our students would be best served with that.
There's one thing I want to follow up on, but I'll wait till the board's finished with their discussion, and then I'll just interject one topic that we should consider before you vote.
Okay. I have a question in a different section of these. So CTA Theater 2, I just was reminded of the CTE, and we don't have a pathway, I believe, right now of like stage uniting. I know we have courses specifically at Mission Vista. But like there's a whole industry out there, especially with the entertainment concerts.
Stagecraft, stage
Yes,
tech.
yes. And so something, if we could explore on that, that's in the career opportunity pathway, and like, we just, that's something I'm gonna work with the county to try and, make sure that, people are certified.
Yeah.
When they're doing the work, those who want accidents to happen,
Yes.
but also that, we invest in the quality of our workforce here in San Diego County.
I'm so glad you brought that up, trustee Vargas, because when I saw this on there, originally I thought that's what it was. I thought CTE Theater 2 would be about stagecraft. And then I looked at, when I read it, I was like, oh, it's more about the actual theater arts, like, traditional. And I agree, I think that would be an ideal addendum to this program, is to have one that specifically deals with that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Right, did you have?
Yeah,
a
there's
comment?
one last thing, Dr. Shigela, since we talked about this particular course, ethnic studies, tonight, what would you recommend the board do? We understand their feedback, we will get back to you on all those points of feedback, but do you recommend that they approve it tonight and we get that feedback, or should we pause, get the feedback, and then bring it back to them?
My honest recommendation is that we pass them, but then we have the follow-up conversation with VBA to find out why. And staff can bring that back to the board in a Friday letter. Because we don't have to, we can hold them, just because it's approved doesn't mean that we have to allow the course number to be used. But if we don't do that, and then they wind up having this great rationale, we provide it to you, like, oh, this is wonderful. Well, then we have to go through the voting process again. So we can hold the number.
Is there any financial commitment if we pass this? Is there any
No.
like curriculum or anything like that?
No, we're okay.
Okay. Right, great, then
We'll hand it back to the board then. I just wanted you to get his perspective.
All right,
I move that we approve item, what are we at, 12A?
okay, are we, comfortable with the resolution right now? Okay, so, go ahead, I think we've, yeah, okay, trustee, Morocco, first, had a first, do we have a second motion on
Second,
it? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, item 12A is passed. We move on to item 13A, I'm sorry, 13A, ratify and approve contract.
Number 22. I don't have it in front of me, so-
I can try to pull it up, give me a moment. I'll pull it up in a second, I'm just getting to the.
Curriculum Associates at the Multilingual Center. And it's for elevation. And
Yeah, Title III, elevation, correct.
I thought we were, in previous conversations, I thought we were moving away from elevation and moving towards GLAD.
So for our secondary teachers, they prefer the curriculum aspect that they find in elevation over GLAD. So GLAD is really robust in elementary. There was, we did the volunteer opportunity, and we sort of talked about that we're not gonna force secondary teachers into GLAD because of all the things, we don't need to rehash it. And so there were middle school teachers mainly who took part in the volunteer secondary GLAD training. There's a sprinkling of high school, but the secondary teachers still prefer the elevation toolbox and curriculum and resources there.
So we're going to have separate for the levels, we're gonna have GLAD K through 8.
Well, K through 5
K
strong,
through 5 strong
middle school-ish,
ish.
high school mainly just elevation, and then the majority of middle school is still in elevation too. And remember, when we look at elevation, it's two things. It's the tracking and reporting,
Yes,
and then it's the curriculum.
yes, and so we're going to be paying for both these programs.
Yes,
Is this long term?
yes.
Okay. Oh, so GLAD was not favorable.
So GLAD K5, like we had talked about multiple times in here, with the charts and all the strategies, is phenomenal in elementary. There was concerns that came up this time last year, and so Rafa had made a presentation, And what we had agreed to is secondary teachers could opt in voluntarily to our own staff doing the GLAD training. And so there were about 28 that did it. Majority of them were middle school. But the elevation, the toolbox, let's say, is really a strong element for secondary teachers.
Are we gonna continue with GLAD
Yes,
and expand it
yeah, well,
in?
as new teachers come on, yes, and can,
And K through 5,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
I have one on here. Were you done?
No, it's yours.
Okay. On item number 2, on Gamut, do we have, us board members have access to that system to be able to log in? To that system?
So Gamut's public for you to be able, for all the public to see, so it's live right now, public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a procedural item on this list. It's non-substantive. Item 5 and 28 should read business services as the recommending party, not EE9. So I apologize for that and I'll have it corrected.
5 and 20, you said?
28.
28.
They're one and the same item. They're split funded.
Oh, gotcha.
I also got a question. Are you done with 13G?
No, this is 13, we need to move.
We're on
we need to-
13A.
On 13A, we need to move. Are you done? Do you have another
Yep,
one?
no.
Okay, I move that we approve item 13A.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, item 13A is passed. We'll move on to item 13G.
13G is the annual Vista Better Together survey, which I think the climate survey, we all know that this has been wonderful. However, I would like to expand it and to include a section for the superintendent and a section on the board, so the public can give feedback and give us a climate and what they think about, superintendent and what they think about the board. Since this is a tool for us to use to make decisions, I think it would be important for us to have feedback directly on these also. So I don't know if that would cost any extra money. I submitted a question earlier and I don't think they know. But I actually more wanted to get my colleagues input on that, on what they think about that. Because it might add additional costs to this one.
Initial thoughts on my end, like the superintendent definitely, out there and engaging and more present in the school, and so like staff will more likely engage it, the superintendent and be able to provide that feedback. Board members, think about how many staff and parents you come across in the academic year. And with that in mind, there's gonna be a bias towards those interactions. But not every single constituent that we represent, both voters and non-voters, get to interact with us, and that's just like part of the nature of the work. I do think, getting feedback from board members is a good thing, but I think we should explore an alternative method of doing that.
So you don't think the climate survey would be, a good way to get their feedback from the stakeholders on how they think that we're doing how we're doing our jobs?
I mean, if we look at students, we're looking at, 11th graders and 7th graders. Out of all those, how many have you interacted? Maybe less than 20. And so is that gonna be good feedback for us?
It may or may not, it might engage them to find out more about the civic process, but I'm also concerned about teachers and classified employees and parents and what they think are stakeholders too.
And this is for another survey focused on school board, more feedback would be more constructive.
Okay, do you have another survey that you would think of?
I can check in with my colleague on, this is probably not something unique that we're asking. If there's gotta be other school districts that do this, and I can bring that back if that is the goal of the work.
Are you opposed to individual, seeing this as individuals or as a board as a whole?
That's a good question. I mean, it's up to the person that's doing the survey interpreting it. Is it because their interactions great with one trustee, or is it because they have interacted with all 5? It's gonna be very different depending on who you ask.
My original thought on that would be that it would be the board as a whole. Are we serving the public as a school board? I wasn't not opposed to the other, but
Well, I'm not opposed to the other, but realize that this is a quantitative analysis that Ellen Daly does, and this is maybe what you're talking about. might be more of a qualitative analysis, and I think that both of you are,
Both.
would be very good.
Well, the teachers already received a survey. In regard to Dr. Doyle and the board. And the president shares that with you. Do they not, Dr. Doyle? I know in my employer, in my school district, we have a survey that we do with our union, and then our president shares that with our superintendent. Is there something?
We don't administer that. The district office is on it.
No, I understand that, but you receive data and you receive
Unions have
feedback.
in the past. They don't do it every year.
They haven't done it.
Yeah.
They, no?
I've never done a survey.
Really? Oh, my
So I did have a chance.
association does.
I did have a chance to text Ellen Daly. I did not speak with him. He's literally in Africa traveling. And he briefly got back to me in text and said that he would recommend that you keep them separate and that he can bring back some ideas. And that what he'd like to do is have a conversation with you about what that could look like. But that these should be separate items. And the reason he explained was, and I understand this, being a researcher, that those would be separate items that have to, in order for them to be valid and reliable, we would have to develop them carefully. So it's certainly a possibility, but he recommends that they be separate,
You mean separate contracts or
Yes.
separate surveys?
separate contracts. You
Okay,
can embed it in the survey once the items
Yes,
are developed.
that's what I
But it
was-
would have to be separate because it's gonna need to be developed. It will take a little bit more time.
okay, all right, very good.
And I did not have a long conversation with him.
No, I understand. No, I appreciate that he got that, that you were able to get that information. I appreciate that.
We started this, if I remember correctly, back in September. I think that's when he started collecting data, and then we got it just last month, was that when we had
We
it?
started collecting data in December.
In December.
You had conversations with them in September as you were refining the tool,
Mhm.
and then December is when we kicked it off.
Okay, and then we got the information just about,
June.
okay, so it was in June.
Mhm.
Has that gone public?
Well, the public presentation, if you remember, when we presented it with each of the board members, will come up in the next month or two when he's back. And remember, I mentioned when he's back from his vacation, he's gonna do a public presentation. And that's when it's in the board member and posted online.
Okay,
So it's not public yet because we haven't done the presentation,
okay.
but
So
we've
that's
informed
good
the
to know.
board members, and that's typically what we do. We typically meet with the board members, inform the board members, and then we make it public.
And
We
so,
always make it public in the fall.
and so he is planning on
Oh, yeah.
coming in the fall, okay.
Yeah, and he's also meeting with principals. He has a meeting coming up planned for the principals in August.
Okay, and what have we gained throughout this process as a district? You've been involved in this, what has he been doing this for?
More
8
than a
years?
decade.
More than a decade.
Mhm.
Has it been positive for us to go through this every year?
I believe it is. And the reason I believe it is because it had direct impact on the development of some of the actions and services in the LCAP. One example that we developed over time were the parent liaisons that actually directly came, and we actually grew it based on feedback from the community. So that's one example. Another example of the actions and services we have expanded since then are the social workers that we originally did not have. And based on multiple years of feedback, we expanded that. So there's a whole variety of different areas. Screen time is another one that's not, you aren't the only ones that bring this up. So it's informative to have a valid and reliable survey. I keep saying valid and reliable because some districts grab a survey offline. That is not valid and reliable. This is done by an outside agency. No one in the district touches it, so it's truly realistic and kind of hits that threshold. So my recommendation has always been, it's wise to do it. If we stop doing it and go with a different agency, it's gonna take 3 years before it's valid and reliable again. So because you have 10 years of data, it's powerful. As soon as you let that go, you lose it. So that would be my recommendation. And administrative leadership, you know this, there was some adjustments that we need to continue to make. And so we're learning from this. Leadership advance coming up next week, you will be coming hopefully. That is front and center. That's one of the main things we're gonna be talking about. Or what did we learn from this and how can we get better as leaders?
I would like to just add another point that when this survey looks at our systems, it's a powerful tool to use where we are using the data to bring about some change in our systems, because it's not a personal thing. It's not about a person or a department or one association, that association, our administrators. It's about system change, and I think that our employees are more likely to buy in when they see this tool that's saying, look, this is what this is what your system needs according to your stakeholders who are answering this. So I think it sometimes you have resistance to changing things that have always been done a certain way, and I think this tool helps us get more buy-in from our stakeholders and who are involved in creating, an environment for our students to learn in, all stakeholders, all employee groups, everyone, from us to our administrators to our two associations. So I think as a person who's received that feedback, right, from our different surveys where I work, it makes it like, well, you can't really challenge it. We have to do it because this is what the data demonstrate.
No, I agree. I agree, but that's why I think that if we expanded this to include, specifically our superintendent, who's our one employee. And realistically, this is also data that we use to make decisions, at least I rely, I use it in making decisions on how I vote. And I want to make sure that, that as a board, we are serving our community with our decisions. And so I think that's good feedback for us as well, to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all on the right track going forward. So that's why I would love to see it expanded. I think Alan Daly gave a very good solution there.
So, well, he didn't give a solution. He just said that he would like to come talk with you about it.
Well,
It was just a text message.
No,
I
no,
got to you.
but I mean having two different contracts
Yeah.
for it.
Fine.
I think that remedies a lot of this, and I think I think that's a very reasonable
Yeah.
compromise.
And he'll be back shortly, so we'll set up a time for him to check in. We'll do something through the Friday letter, and then we'll bring him to an open meeting so you can have that conversation. Or perhaps it can be when he does the presentation
Yes.
of the results, and that could be a secondary component of it, which
So then
it'll probably be in September.
that presentation would have to be an action item.
Now, the presentation is just a report.
No, but if we were to wanting to do an addendum onto this contract, that.
If you wanted to do it that evening or the next meeting, next board.
Okay.
meeting. So yeah, we can take care of that later.
Okay.
He is aware of it and he's ready to have a conversation with you about that.
All right, thank you.
Any other? Okay, any other comments or questions about 13G? Okay, do we have a motion to?
I move that we approve item 13G to approve the annual Vista Better Together survey.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, 13G is accepted, approved. Looks like we're gonna move on to item 16A. Unless we want, you guys don't need a break, or are we good? Keep going. Okay,
All right.
move on to 16A, the Climate Action Committee overview of 3-year goals, cycle and next steps. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Litcher.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be joined by a few members from the Climate Action Committee who were available in July. The committee's substantially larger, but we can only ask for volunteers available in July. So we're going to have them introduce themselves here in a moment. President Markov, Vice President Vargas, and all members of the Board of Trustees. One of the reasons I was so overjoyed to be part of this unified school district is that you are taking climate action. And I was honored when Dr. Doyle asked if I could be part of this. And today's presentation is a little different than the ones we've done for the last 3 years, because this is the end of the 3-year goal cycle. And we're going to start talking about the new goals for Climate Action Committee. So this is more of like an action item report on the things that we've done. So I'm also going to turn it over now and have each of our members that are present here this evening. Clearly 2 are present because they also have other reports they're giving, but we have Cassie with us with the city. So they're all going to introduce themselves.
Good evening, I'm Cassidy McCarthy. I'm the Climate Action Plan Program Administrator at the City of Vista.
Thanks for being here.
Hello, I'm Tracy Mangold. I'm the Director of Transportation for Vista Unified School District.
Good evening, I'm Carolyn Mossung, and I'm your Director of Child Nutrition Services.
And we have a number of other operational elements and curricular teams that are part of the Climate Action Committee because it touches every aspect of the school district. And we're just going to talk a bit about an overview. And then they're here to field any questions you might have about how the committee functions, how their feelings about it, information from them. But I'm going to tend to be a little quick. We already know the purpose is published online. It was established in 2021. We had a little bit of a stall because of the time period, and then we started it right back up and went into it. Trustee Vargas and trustee Rocco have been regular members at this committee, have joined me in many of the meetings, and we appreciate all of what they have done for us. So the focus in general from 2023 through 26 was sort of this notion and this idea that we would focus on 3 goals with actionable items each year. We had many discussions about this as a committee, was to narrow our focus and see what we could accomplish and move things forward. So this was a little bit different. So the goals were broad in nature and they were followed by strategic actions. This is something that Vista Unified's done very well, where you see action items and we get specific as to what we're doing each year. We've listed our meeting dates. We treat this, although it's not required, we do treat this as a Brown Act meeting structure. So people are welcome to come in public speak, which we have had. We do post of all our agendas. Everything is posted online, so it's available for all everybody. It's really a workshop format though. So I have a little more casual. I know you all enjoy the workshops where we can sit around the same table. And again, everything's online. The names of the current committee members are listed here for you. We also have student committee members that are regular members. So on slide 5 are their name. Clearly, we don't list their last name. We are so pleased. We have some of our students that just recently left us that are going to Stanford to study climate action and what they can do. We have members that have received national and area awards for this work. So we're really proud of the work that these are the students that are regularly present. We also have meetings at school sites. I believe trustee Morocco was mapping at one meeting at RBV where we had like 90 students around us and we were participating and getting together. And no, it wasn't for Kathy points. They actually came to talk about climate action. So it was all good. They got Kathy too. But what were these goals? What were we doing? We were remaining focused on 3 primary areas. First, what can we do right now? The question is always, what is in our immediate control and what can we do? Clearly, we cannot solve the climate issues of the planet, but we do have things that we can do and we're responsible for. So that was area 1. Area 2 was how can we get a district plan together and align it with the regional goals, which really go all the way through to the UN goals on what we do and how can we go about doing that? And area 3 was how can we get more students engaged in this and in the curriculum with 2 ideas. First, we're an education institution first, so we have to be touching students. Second, as we've said before, we don't own this issue. The students that come after us are going to own these issues. Our time is coming to an end and their time is going to continue. And most of them are going to see the immediate impacts of 3 degrees Celsius change and other. So let's take a look real quick, just as a listing. Here is a listing on from 2023 through 2026. These are actual actions the district has taken. The electrification of the bus yard climate action pathway engagement. Baseline data was collected by students across the district. We joined the Clean Energy Alliance. We incentivized student participation in climate activities across the board. We did the first round of the electrification of the white fleet, diversified our white fleet. We did an electrification resolution. Right now, just keep in mind, from 2023 to now, this is the only school district that's on 100% clean renewable energy. Right now, as you sit in this room, it's all renewable energy. That was not the case. Now, I know some people will say you do that because you love the climate. I happen to love the climate. It also saved us $1.4 million. At the same time, it's not one or the other, and we're going to go through that here.
I have to say this because I'll say it every time. What's the cost of a diesel bus per mile and the cost of an electric?
Oh, I don't want to ruin Tracy's presentation tonight. I don't want to ruin that for her, and she's going to cover that tonight. And when you hear the cost, when you hear the cost, please keep your hand up because your jaw will drop. Because the cost differentiation is pretty phenomenal.
That's crazy.
All right, we explained those the conversions of the white and yellow fleet. Keep in mind, and we'll get this in transportation. Yellow fleet vehicle lead time is 2, 3, 4 years to build these things. Right? Different technology, solid state batteries. White fleet's a little different. We also did some things not listed here. Beauvier's coming online. The school's virtually off the grid. It's our first fully functional electric kitchen where we're going to be cooking and doing things without any cost to the district for electricity and operational costs. This is a wholesale shift on how we do things.
How much do we save?
Wait, let them, she'll say that.
Well, the broad overview. We're going to talk about CNS. The broad overview when you talk about a site like Beauvier is the site And I'm gonna test Dr. Doyle now. It's a pass-fail test. Those are always easier, right?
Yes.
But Bovier is what percentage off the grid?
Well, I want it to be 100%.
No, no, but what is the percentage listed?
It's 90%.
Correct. That's the legal maximum we can put because,
This darn thing called the sun goes down at night.
yeah, so the sun goes down at night, so you can never say 100%.
Hey, they have these things called battery
Yeah.
backups.
Understood, but you can still not make the claim. The claim, the legal maximum claim we can make is 90% with any sort of credibility. And in fact, during the summer, that thing pumps energy in. So somebody has said, so you're gonna save 90% of the electrical costs that you spent, and the answer is no. We actually save more because all of the efficiency systems that are in there, from LED bulbs to energy efficient HVAC units to everything, to the construction of the building, we save substantially more than 90%. We save about 95% of what we got.
You have a question.
Yes.
Since you brought up off grid, if there's a power outage, are we covered or no?
Yeah, so we're gonna get into depth more on a lot of different things on emergency prep, and we'll do that in closed session because actually we have a different electrification plan for that. Okay, so when we do our annual cycle of emergency prep, we'll list
The
that.
answer is we do have a plan.
We do,
Okay,
we do.
that wasn't the question though.
Yeah, we have two, we actually have the primary and the backup plan, if everybody was, yeah. So then we go over to goal 2, and these are strategic actions taken on planning alignment. Now Cassidy can speak more about this, but they are in the process of getting their pathway plan together for their renewal, and we have come to an outline that aligns with theirs, and we plan to participate in that. But we have our draft outline plan. We identified all of our current practices. We've gone through and looked at things like the electrical district transit adoption cycle, how we go about these things. So this is just a sample listing again of all the things that were actual items taken. These are actual strategic changes that occur. We don't really call them out. You will see them in the budget. You will see them in different ways. And sometimes, so we're clear, sometimes you're going to see an item and it may look like a certain expense. And again, we'll talk about this briefly in transportation tonight. For example, you may see a line item that says $1.4 million for buses, but we're getting a grant back. So the buses no longer cost $450,000, the buses cost $25,000, right? So, but you have to front load the money. That, like a lot of the things we do for capital investment, you have to front load it, then you get it back.
Dr. Lusher, can we just take, go ahead.
For one bus?
One bus is over $450,000.
Right,
typically.
and now you're saying each bus is,
When we get a grant for them, we get them, yeah,
we get a grant so far for all of the EV. buses?
almost all of the buses in varying
Over
amounts.
team.
Yeah, we'll give you all of the amounts. Yeah, it's substantial. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
That's amazing.
Right. Yeah, we'll go.
Hey, Sean, real quick, Dr. Gosher.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for Cassidy to come up for 30 seconds.
Yes.
Because we've had multiple questions from board members about our relationship with the city of Vista, and they're doing some amazing work.
Hi. I didn't come with a formal presentation, but as Dr. Locher mentioned, we have just secured a contract with Ascent Environmental for redoing our climate action plan for the city. I have had a couple meetings with Dr. Locher and another committee member about aligning the current climate action plan with the school's plan as well. So there's a lot to come. I've been in my role now for almost 4 years, so a lot has been moving. There's been a great relationship between the city and the school district when it comes to climate action planning, and plan to keep it that way and keep it stronger as we develop our new plan starting this year.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We're moving on.
Yeah, goal 3. We're coming to a close fast. Student engagement. I think some of you have been to our STEM events, which are climate action and focus. Each year they've increased. This year's event at RBV, well, they were very gracious. We took over the whole campus to conduct that event. But Robert Crowell, who couldn't be with us, who's our co-chair and talks about the curriculum aspects of all of this, has been leading all of those efforts. So we have that STEM festival, but we also had a full internship program for climate action through the committee that was guided, and that did an actual research study on our district. It shared to various departments, various things that could happen in different ways and why it was important. Everything from the grounds department all the way through to CNS, who adopted particular practices and principles based upon those data reports, all generated from students. So this is just again, a sample listing of all of the many things that are there. In addition, career technical education courses in particular, where this topic is spoken about quite a bit, either in finance or other areas, right? There's a particular segment of every course outline called All Aspects of Industry. And what they've done is they're embedding these topics in all aspects of industry because they don't belong to any one topic. You have to understand, just like we were talking about the buses, how do you go about implementing these things for financial strategies? How do you do this operationally that it makes sense? And Robert was very kind to join me where we presented the following operational percentage overviews of the 3-year gains. All right, so 100% on clean renewable energy right now. All schools are on sorted waste systems at this time, elementary, middle, and high. Elementary, I got to tell you, is doing the best. It's really interesting. They by far do the best. 90% of the district is on LED lighting, which is a substantial change. It's not just better for energy and the climate, it's better for your eyes, and actually kids and people learn better under LED lights compared to fluorescence, right? 70% reduction on reliance on petroleum products. Okay, 65% of the electrical fleet, yellow fleet's being updated, 20% of the white fleet being updated, 50% of all grounds equipment.
The blowers, thank God.
Yeah, the blowers. The blowers take away when they're working on grounds, we did calculations, 5 to 7 minutes of instructional time. We calculated, we almost added an entire instructional and a half day back to the school year because you're not stopping.
Nice.
Right? So we keep an instructional focus on these things, even though they're operational elements. HVAC units were up to about 50% on high energy efficiency units. We had that 100% gain of student participants in STEM and climate action. And then we also had these really amazing things that emerged. Rounds started to lead action research projects. The original one you can still see right now, and Dr. Doyle and I loved walking it, was over at where New Vita is located. It was on all of the ground surfacing and how water could be collected different and how water reduction could occur and how it could keep the building safer. So all of those still are out there, and it actually established the district standard for Beaubier. So that happened in this particular committee. These studies started to
Including
occur.
the plants, it's like Xeriscape.
Yeah,
So all of
it's
our
amazing.
plants out front here were based on that design.
Yeah, in one particular, if I can share, Dr. Doyle and I had, well, he had sneakers on, I had boots on. We were standing out in a rainstorm watching, because one of the things of the skating
We
is
wanted to see
isn't
if it
just,
worked.
yeah, we wanted to see if it worked. But it's not just, it does it not take the water? Will it like move the water in the right direction and keep it away from the buildings, and will everything do what it needs to do? And so we were out there on a Saturday in a rainstorm laughing
It was really
and pointing. So it was all fun. But also the policy implementations and refinements for like the electrification campaign. And as Cassidy just shared, we have a fully functional outline. And now that we have somebody selected for the city for the plans, we have confirmed that we can use a restricted funding source to support that work so we can continue this. One of the big goals was on publicizing this work and making sure it's out there. So we have been featured in different ways, everything from national governmental magazine to local magazines on what are we doing? How are we doing it? We, as I told you, Mr. Carl and I participated at various college events presenting on these topics for operational efficiency, but to improve instruction and quality of life around us, right? Not just air pollution, talking about the air quality, but noise pollution, light pollution, different things that become the past. So the members are here. If you have questions of them, or if you have any feedback to take back to the committee, they're going to be in the process of developing new goals and action items to talk to you about, or I can take information from you back to them. That is the presentation.
So I'm assuming that we're gonna be setting new goals since we're at the end of the 3-year cycle.
Well, it can either be by board direction, or the committee can make recommendation and come back. They could come back and say, we're happy with the 3 areas of focus we have, and we're just going to recommend new strategic actions, but that would be the next step typically. would be to take forward feedback and to talk with them.
Thank you.
I'm waiting for Tracy. And I'm waiting for you too, and you, okay.
I do have a question, and I don't know who could better answer this, but I have a plug-in hybrid. I don't have a charger at my house. I just use a typical plug-in like extension cord, electrical cord that I got. And I think it's a barrier for community members who want an electric car but live in an apartment or don't have the resource, or they're renters and they can't necessarily install one of those. How can we utilize our schools, our real estate to increase the number of chargers at the school sites that are not being rebuilt or not, how can we get a charger into every like neighborhood so that folks who live in apartments or renters could charge an electric car if they choose to buy one? And we might have more people buying it because I think the governor just signed something where he's giving a rebate of $3,500 for use of electric cars. So what can we do to move that in the right direction?
Sure, why don't we share what we do now? And then we can share what's next, and then to answer the board members' question specifically. It's a matter of resource allocation out of facilities and the planning department. We actually talk with the city now about this. We don't talk about it with Cassidy, we actually talk about it with the city manager and the planning team. But why don't we talk about what we do now? We have, and you're gonna hear about the electrical chargers here in the yard. This is a secure yard because of everything is closed, but we also do have electric chargers currently piloted at the new Vita site. And those electric chargers have two different programs on them. It's a charge point charger. So the first program is that during specific hours, that charger is only for district vehicle use for charging vehicles. But there's another program cycle where community members could go on and plug in. The same will be true of Beaubier when it opens. Beaubier has two particular parking lots. The lower parking lot is intended that it can be left open so people can charge. We actually make money from the charging. It's at a different rate, but it's less than going to a full service charger. But the district can't give electricity away. That's a gift of public funds, but we do get a reimbursement on all those things. And then the answer to the long range plan is simply, we have built it into like Vista Magnet Middle School. There are the capabilities to charge there. It's to simply continue to add chargers as we go. But it does mean we have to start, and we have started a really hard conversation about how do you go about staffing for that? Because now we're managing chargers, which is an entire computer network system that's a different thing, but we're piloting it now.
I have a question about what you just said about the two-tiered on the charge point. How are we communicating to community members when they can charge their car and when they can't? Because I drive an electric car and I have gone to those chargers before, and all of a sudden it's not working and you're like, wait, what? Why? You don't understand that. So ChargePoint's not real good about giving that information.
Great question, and I also drive an electric, and I know what company you drive, and your company doesn't let my type of car in sometimes.
It does, you just have to have an adapter.
No, I have an adapter, but you have your own units. We'll take it up after the meeting. It's between you. So the answer to that is right now we're piloting because we're having to learn a whole new skill set. We've never had to do this. The long-term answer is the reason why we went with the state standardized system of charge point. That's what UC California uses and CSUs. Is in theory that should be in the app telling the user the hours of operation and when they're available and not available. When we feel more comfortable, we can put those in community updates or other items to share with the community, but we're still really piloting and trying to make sure we have it right.
Well, I think even some signage would be fine at the charge point itself, saying that, these, although if I'm not mistaken, because I drive by there frequently, there's usually buses plugged in, so I would assume that's when people are not allowed to use them.
That is correct. That is a time that people can't use them, and we'll cover that in the transportation, because you're going to come to discover we have over 50 electric vehicles in the district, but only 13 chargers in this yard. right?
Yeah.
So we have to diversify, and there's reasons for that we're gonna come to the board with in August. We've been engaged in a 4-year planning process with SDG&E because we do have a grid that's not designed for these things, but we'll be back with that in August.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for us?
Yeah, can we get, is it community choice energy to help subsidize some of these chargers as a goal since they're a nonprofit? Or, I mean, they're supposed to take the money that's used and reinvest it in the community. Is there some kind of plan that we could utilize or start? I mean, we have the real estate. They have the money that is being made from this that's supposed to be put right back into our community. And it's great that we have it at the new Vita, but I'm talking about our zip codes that have
Over
a lot,
Yeah.
high percentage of poverty. And I know Bovier, because it's a new school, of course, but I'm thinking about the other schools, I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm saying.
We'd be happy to explore that.
Very fun.
Great.
We good with this? Can we have, listen,
We're gonna find out how much we save for transportation.
Oh, you are?
It's in the
that's on 16.
It's coming up.
We gotta get to 16 first. There's a child nutrition.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, we wanna hear about all the great things that are.
Trustee Martin, we have to eat first.
I know.
Yes.
Lunch break, then transportation.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
Cassie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Cassidy. All right.
Well, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Ms. Carolyn Wasong, our Director of Child Nutrition Services. It has been a true honor and privilege to be able to work with her. This is not a small operation. Sometimes you move through your career in different ways, and I thought when I ran high school, like I had a lot of staff, and then you meet people like Tracy and Carly, and suddenly you realize you have people that are overseeing hundreds of people and vendors that are running farms and running transportation logistics and large things. So I'm excited to hear from Carly and for her to share last year's operational report with you. This is part of our annual cycle. So Carly, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Loescher. Good evening, Board President, Mr. Markov, Board of Trustees, Dr. Doyle. Once again, my name is Carolyn Wasong, and I am your Director of Child Nutrition Services. And today I will be presenting on my 25-26 Child Nutrition Services Annual Report. So to start us off, I'll talk about our meal totals because they're quite impressive. This is what I like to brag about with our staff. This year, our staff has served just under 3 million meals to our students. And to put this in perspective, this would mean we served 73 sold out Petco Park games, which is actually more sold out games than they had last season at 72%. So you can see the breakdown on the screen of our breakfast facts, our lunch facts, and our supper facts. Our breakfast participation, we saw a 2% increase over last year, which is equivalent to 38,000 meals. Lunch, we did see about a 2% decrease, which is roughly 100,000 meals. There's a couple of different things our team is thinking about going on. We have our declining enrollment, which we know is going to impact. The other thing, since our breakfast numbers increased while our lunch numbers decreased, we offer something called Second Chance Breakfast. So this is an opportunity for students to get breakfast during their recess or during a passing period at middle school and high schools. That tends to be closer, or it is closer to lunch period. So if students are participating in that Second Chance Breakfast, there's a good possibility they're just not quite hungry enough to then go ahead and get their lunch. But we are monitoring our lunch numbers as well. The next key performance indicators we look at, once again, I just spoke about our meal totals, is our staffing rates. So this is something we closely monitor as well, because it obviously impacts our sites and our students. So we're at a 16% vacancy rate, which is about 23 vacant positions within our department. This number is a little bit higher than the prior year, but this is in part to the 7 additional 8-hour positions that were approved by the board last year, and we do thank you for that. Additionally, we've had 17 new employees join our team last year, 5 internal promotions. We love seeing our CNS assistant 1s move up to assistant 2s, assistant 2s move on up to the lead position. Additionally, we've increased hours for 10 of our different positions. And once again, we created those 7 additional 8-hour positions. Another metric regarding safety or regarding staffing that we always look at is staffing safety, and I do provide our staff safety updates in every Friday letter. The next item that we look at is our audits. So last year we had our child and adult care food program audit. We did pass this audit with no major findings. The only finding that was noted for our program is we do have an excess of funds, and I'll go ahead and speak about that later on in this presentation. Probably my favorite metric that I get a report on is our farm to school produce. This is something that was started before I came the director, and it's just continued to flourish within our department, and it's something that we're really passionate about. So two different metrics, our local farms and California farms. So starting off with our local farms, we define local within 75 miles of the USD. There's actually not a true definition of local, but we say within 75 miles. We've increased our purchases from 17,000 pounds in 24-25 school year to over 200,000 pounds in the 25-26 school year. So this is an over 1,100% increase. And if you think about this in sizes of elephants, we're going to go with that metric today. This is 21 elephants, the weight of 21 elephants. So it's quite impressive. For our California farms, we've increased our California purchases from 126,000 pounds in the 24-25 school year to over 340,000 pounds in the 25-26 school year, which is a 170% increase. In terms of elephants, that's 34 elephants. And then in terms of a dollar value, our purchases from California farms has increased to nearly $600,000 for the 25-26 school year, which is an increase of over $114,000. And I do want to note that almost $500,000 of that $600,000 was with our local farmers very close to our Vista area. Our other metric that we always watch and something that we're really proud of our department is our student outreach. So you can see a list of all of the different activities that we do with our students. We've held 26 different taste tests with our students. In prior years, we often went to a school and we held school-wide taste tests. We realized we're not getting the best feedback from students this way. They come up to the table, take the sample, and then put a sticker on the board of whether they liked it or didn't. But we didn't get that one-on-one feedback from students. So most of these 26 taste tests were in students' classrooms, which we were invited by the teachers to do. So that allowed us really to get very specific feedback from our students. They can tell us, I like this because of this item. Can you please put this item? I really don't like this. Take this off the menu. So we get great valuable feedback from our students when we're in their classrooms. We continue with our blender bike events and our cooking card events. We held 23 nutrition education classes. And once again, this is where teachers will reach out to us and invite us into their classroom for us to do nutrition education for their students. We continued with our farmers markets. We also made presentations and flyers for National Nutrition Month that teachers were able to use with their classrooms. We supported Alamosa's Healthy Hawk Week. We had 3 farm to school or farm to summer events. And we continued on with our Harvest of the Month program. The Harvest of the Month program is when we select a specialty fruit or vegetable to showcase each month. Teachers sign up for this program and then they'll come and pick up the washed produce from the kitchen and have a taste test with a nutrition education presentation with their students. And then these specialty items are on the salad bar or offered to the middle school and high school students every Thursday of that month. We've also continued our menu feedback surveys. We do at least 2 of these per year, and this is an opportunity for students, staff, and parents to give us feedback regarding our programs. For menu updates, we had a lot of menu updates, lots of new options for our students. We had over 18 new breakfast items last year. These included like a cheese omelet with stuffed hash browns. We really tried to focus on the protein items. So breakfast sandwiches, breakfast egg bites were often on the menu, and some savory croissant items as well. We had over 17 new elementary entrees and over 20 new middle school and high school entrees as well. We did switch to a California raised beef hamburger. This is a more sustainable option and it's also a higher quality of hamburger for our students. And based on student feedback, we increased our portion sizes for our middle school and high school sites while making sure we maintained our compliance with the nutritional requirements from federal. We continued offering our protein-based items for breakfast, and then we continued offering both vegetarian items for both breakfast and lunch on a daily basis. Another item, we also increased our vegetarian options as well.
A quick shout out to the vegetarian. I actually tried the chili. It was very good. You should try it.
Just to follow up from last year's conversation, on this slide and previous ones, these were all discussions from last year. If you recall, we wanted clearer delineation on vegan, vegetarian items. They have now logos to delineate this, so that way it's really clear for people on items. Menu options have increased. And then, again, I think one of the big ones that is out there, and I know Carly said how proud she is of it, I think we all should be proud, is to go to farms within 75 miles of here. It's better for the environment, it's better for the local economy, and we waste less food. Less food gets destroyed in transit. That's 1,100% increase in a single year, and that was something that we discussed last year. It also keeps our workers local and not moving around like this. So it is a big deal, and I really appreciate that you followed up on each of those items.
The next topic I want to talk about is our grants and infrastructure improvements for the 25-26 school year. So we successfully completed the full $1.09 million encumbrance of the 2022 kitchen and infrastructure training grant. These funds had to be spent by June 30th, 2026, which we met. One of my favorite items that we spent these funds on was training with brigade chefs during our 25-26 August Professional Development Day. During this, we had 2 professional chefs come into our kitchens over 2 different days. We split our CNS staff up into 4 different groups, so they really got a small group hands-on experience with these chefs. Another item that we spent the monies on was different infrastructure improvements, one of which being our central kitchen plumbing repairs, which the cafeteria fund otherwise would not have been able to fund out of Fund 13. So this grant money is very important. We did just get awarded $653,000 for the 25 kitchen infrastructure and training funds, and this grant must be encumbered by June 30th of 2028.
That just got approved. You guys.
Yes,
Fast.
just got it.
Now, these in particular pertain to something we'll talk about in the facilities workshop, which is when we talk about braided funding and funding coming things, we wish it could be really simple. Like we could just put everything in one account and show you what we spend, but we actually have to charge it to the correct fund for federal, state, different sources. So when we talk about the maximization of funds, braided funding, this would be an example when we're doing something. We oftentimes, if we're going to touch the kitchen, an example would be Vista High. We went through this process, or other facilities this summer where we did flooring and other items. We're touching these and other funds to maximize the funds, so that way we're taking care of things.
Are these grants federal or state?
Yeah, so the KIT funds are state funded.
Okay. Is there a grant, do you know, for keeping things local, to do local farm to table type?
Do you want me to continue answering questions? Or
What are you comfortable answering questions?
whatever you prefer.
Whatever you prefer.
We can take that on if you want.
Yeah.
Or
Can you repeat your question?
It was, do you know if there's any grants for keeping, for utilizing the local, like farm to table type? Local produce, or local procurement of food items.
We don't have any grant funding from that right now.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, many times it will be a startup grant, but we've been able to establish it. Grants sometimes take a while to get going, and we wanted to move. It's again better for the environment.
No, I understand. I was hoping that there might be a grant, so,
We did look for the goal from last year, and we didn't find any, but we proceeded to goal.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So moving into that, so our CDE approved school nutrition program spending plan. So school nutrition programs are restricted to having a maximum of 6 months of their operating expenses in their financial observes per CDE. Once you exceed that limit, you are required to go on to a spending plan with CDE. So we are currently on a spending plan of $5.4 million, and that money must be spent down by the 28-29 school year. These are a list of our different projects. So our refrigerated trucks, we did get new refrigerated warehouse trucks. We're currently in consultation with a warehouse consultation firm, and we'll be working through more improvements with our warehouse. You can see we have different plumbing upgrades. We have 4 different flooring projects that are currently being completed this summer that we're spending that monies on. We're in process with different high school kiosks to increase our point of sales for our students to get them through the lines a little bit faster. We're also looking to see how can we shift towards more sustainable foods, like I talked about, of our beef patties, along with moving towards more compostable single-use serviceware. Those just tend to be more expensive. We've also increased our payroll and new positions, and then we'll continue on with our modernizations and innovations.
So again, very complicated, some of these departments, correct. We also report directly to the CD. We have more than one board we report to. So we have to report back on these items. And I know Dr. Doyle sometimes jokes about this. He and I probably get 6 to 10 emails a day from the CDE just for Carly. Yeah, not because we're in trouble, but because every food sourcing update, every operational update, every information about bacterial outbreak in some part of the country, all has to be cross-referenced and checked. They have to go into the warehouse, check it all.
It's the most highly regulated aspect of our district, by far.
And then just going off of this is the list that we have sent to CDE of, hey, these are the ideas of what we want. Of course, we bring those to you for board approval before moving forward with any of these projects.
I'm really glad to hear about the increased point of sale at our high schools, because that's when I talk to students, that's like one of the big things that they say is that the lunch break is so short and there's just not enough time for them to get through the lines a lot. So I'm glad to hear that. So I'm very glad for that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And then at this time, we'll open up for discussion and word feedback.
Pardon me. Staffing.
Mhm.
You have 23 vacancies.
Yes, that is correct.
So are those through attrition, or are we planning on staffing them?
Yes, we are actively working with HR to have it posted. We actually have our CNS Assistant 1 position continuously posted on EdJoin, because we always do have openings in that position. So we're continuously hiring there.
And so these are at school sites, I assume, the 23 positions.
It's a mix of some school sites, but most of these positions are at our central kitchen. We have chosen to heavily staff our central kitchen to make accommodations for when employees are out sick or when they're on vacations. Then we have rovers at our central kitchen to go out and cover at our school sites. So our school sites are our #1 priority to make sure that they're fully staffed. So most of these open positions are at our central kitchen. And then we can go ahead and send these employees out to cover when other employees at school sites are out.
I'm very thrilled to hear that school sites are your main priority. That's not what I'm hearing. So I'm very concerned that we're short-staffed with CNS on school sites. And I have gone to many of these kitchens and they're short-staffed. And the prep alone, just the meal prep alone, sounds outrageous. I mean, it's their jobs, I get it. And they can get it done if they're staffed. I don't want people working off the clock. I don't want them coming in early. I don't want them staying past their time to help out. And those are the things that I'm hearing. So if we're really going to prioritize the school sites, and I appreciate that, that's where the kids are. That's where the food is. That's where the prep happens. And getting through those lines requires all that to be done in a timely manner, which they're doing. But I'm really concerned about the load we're putting on them. So if some of these are in the central kitchen, and I understand rovers, but rovers don't really work that well. That's why I don't like split sites for CNS or for custodial. And so maybe this is a Dr. Loescher question. I really want these positions. I want these kitchens staffed.
So I think there's 2 items. First is it's accurate to say that historically in certain classes, we see a higher vacancy rate than any of us would like to see. In this case, this year's vacancy rate is now higher because 8 positions were added. on top. So if we did it year over year, we're actually decreasing on percentage, but then we increase the numbers. So we can go through that. We can also discuss it when there's a space to do so about how we come to staffing ratios in numbers and items. We are a personnel district, so we do talk about those things broadly. We don't just unilaterally act on those items. But in addition to the 8 additional positions, we actually did also add hours to other positions, and we're continuing reviewing that. So we'd be happy to get back to the board if it's your prerogative on all of those items in conjunction with HR, so we can talk about how we're doing that.
Where are the 8 new positions? Are those at the central kitchen?
Currently, they're at the central kitchen and some are going to the Beaubier district. So what we look at is meals per labor hour to evaluate, and this is what Dr. Losher was meaning. We look at meals per labor hour to evaluate the staffing, and that is a national standard to determine staffing levels in kitchens.
And do you check with the kitchens on a daily basis if they're short, if they need a rover, if you can send your supervisors, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so all of the absences are reported to our central office. Leads will call us and say, this member of my staff is out today. I need a substitute. I do not need a substitute. And then we're able to send coverage. Another thing that we offer is if this staff is able to work longer. So if they have a 3.8 hour employee, and maybe another 3.8 hour employee is absent, we ask that 3.8 hour employee if they are able to work additional hours for that day, and if that is okay for the functioning of their kitchen. If they are able to do so, then they get their EWA and paid for that extra time.
Okay, great. And the rest of it is fabulous. Thank you so much for doing local farming, the California beef, it's sustainable, all these things. And I have noticed that high schools, there's less food going into the trash cans. So that's really a good thing. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have an idea. I don't know. I'm gonna throw out an idea and then y'all can shoot it down and tell me why it can't be done. But I'm just wondering if we couldn't staff some of these shortages with perhaps a work study program with the high school students. Would that not be feasible at all?
No, ma'am, for a few reasons. First of all, it would be a supplantation of paid unionized work. Second of all, and that's a state and federal regulation. Second of all, the level of food handler requirements, certifications requires being 18 or fully trained. So we have discussed, there is some participation with career technical education that we're exploring in terms of meal threats and other things. But that's not one that we can accomplish.
Well, I'm certainly not talking about displacing any of our employees. What I'm talking about is like if we have a vacancy or an opening or something.
And I'll just add a couple of things. So employees of the district must be 18 years old.
Okay.
If they're in a position. And CSEA has also worked with the district to provide us an opportunity to contract services. There are no contracted services out there to bring into the district. So
This is an interesting phenomenon, though. I've been waiting to say this. It's beautiful that we're offering free lunch for everyone, breakfast and lunch for everyone in every school in the entire state of California. The problem is everyone needs to staff their schools. So this is a problem that you talk about the vacancies. The vacancies exist because we have this beautiful program across the state. We're going to fill it, but it takes a little bit of time because the demand is dramatic. Anyone on any campus can see this. It's dramatic.
Do we offer the incentive?
I don't know if we offer incentives, Rachel, for this. We've offered incentives for other positions,
I know.
not this position.
we had an MOU regarding this and we were working really hard on increasing hours and providing
That's better than an
specific
incentive.
professional development. So we've actually eliminated a lot of part-time positions and created longer hour positions. We've been doing that probably 4 years now. And so they've really expanded as many as they can with work to be done. And so it's just at this point filling those other positions. The more we can lengthen, of course, continue to do that. And then we're also regulated on hourly pay and those things by the Personnel Commission with the merit system. That is driven by job descriptions and actual relationship, the relational aspect of the ranges and the steps. So that's where we have to work within the Personnel Commission and the merit system rules.
Would that affect a hiring incentive?
So with the hiring incentive, we did a hiring incentive a few years ago. It wasn't as impactful as it was for like the transportation department. And that's why we worked on expanding out and lengthening hours instead. But yeah, that's always something to
And the
consider
hours
with an
are-
incentive.
The lengthening hours is fairly new. We just.
We've been doing it we've been working with, they've really gone through every position and looked at anything they can expand. But as far as, an incentive, in the LCAP, we have a bank of funds that you approved for incentives. So those incentives could be applied to these. We do it based on hard to fill positions, how much money we have, and also not just those positions. We have multiple hard to fill positions. So we strategize with that as best we can with the openings and the vacancies and the candidates that we have.
Okay.
To clarify, incentives have to come from the general fund unrestricted. It may not come from a restricted funding source.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was gonna talk about the incentives and now thank you no, it's fine, for clarifying that it has to come from the general fund and not the CNS funds. Because, that would help a lot. So you're already doing the extension of hours or trying to do that through the MOU. I would like us to look at the incentives again. Obviously, there's other positions like paras and special ed that are super hard to fill. Maybe we can look at it one more time because I think the cost of food today, I'm sure we have more kids participating in eating at our schools rather than bringing lunch because it's just so hard for families to feed their kids. And if they are, some of them unfortunately may not have access to nutritious food, protein density food. So if my board, my colleagues would be amenable, please, can we look at incentivizing it again so that we can provide the best possible resources and meals to our kids with a fully funded CNS staff? If I can get some consensus on looking at that as a whole.
Sure. I think. Thumbs up on that?
Yeah, we have to know
Yeah.
that. We will get back to it again.
I have a question. Are we only this might be a Rachel question. Are we only advertising for these jobs, these openings on EdJoin, or are we looking at other places?
No, I think Rachel has a lot to share.
Yeah, we are not only advertising on
Okay.
it. There's multiple sites and platforms that we're using. I'll get a list from classified on all of those based on different positions. But we advertise on multiple platforms.
Do we have maybe on our own websites, perhaps work here button where that people that are coming to our website could maybe click on to find out what openings we have in case they're interested in being.
Yeah, and every site we update even banners outside and we
Yeah.
attend all of the back to school nights. And we have the QR code and we have business cards, but all the banners are updated every year with the district theme, with the QR codes. Try to rotate those through, but our biggest as is the small kind of pop-up
Yeah.
recruitment fairs at the back to school nights.
Yeah.
And any type of open house, and that's HR and other departments that help us with that. So, yes, those are all available. I mean, it's hard to get everything out there, but yes.
Yeah, we're on it. Rachel actually puts me to work. I literally have a shirt.
I have
Because I
a-
recruit during the back to school night
Got a QR
for
code?
HR. Yeah, it's funny.
I'd like you to get a shirt that says CNS worker.
Yeah.
And go in.
He actually has,
He does.
he actually has, the arrow, the.
Yeah.
The
He-
Hairnet.
I did.
No, he has a cape.
Dr. Doyle has failed the food service exam on one. And was asked not to do any more edging.
That's because I eat.
But he does.
things I made.
Yeah, he does go off and we do those, and we do have the classified employee for a day things and other things, but actually. Dr. Doyle's been amazing at going off and riding buses, going and doing edging on grounds and other things, and we enjoy doing it. We actually have our own ground stuff and our own stuff.
I make a point every time I visit a site to check in in the kitchen because
Yeah.
of the work that they do. It's amazing work. I want to thank all of you. I do it, don't I?
Yeah.
And what-
hand you an apron, but.
Yeah. That's because I can eat all your food. I eat all your food.
He's not in CSD.
But this is the time to thank all of you. I truly thank all of you for the work you do for our students. With Alvarado, your point is absolutely essential. Our kids don't have access to the food they need when they're at home. We need to support them right now. It's a tough time. So thank you for the work you do.
Couple of
We
questions.
have all your notes here. We're gonna follow up on all of it.
Couple questions on my end. So right now, we're doing 9,200 lunches this last academic year. Before we did universal lunches, what numbers were we at?
I'll get that to you in a Friday letter. I'll have to,
Ballpark, is it 6,000, 5,000?
I don't have that number. It was
Before
prior
it was
to when I was
universal.
with the district.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I hate to put false information out there. We'll follow up and we can publicize it for people to understand and know. It's a substantial increase, generally.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is right now, like, we were able to do that because the state's funding it.
Yeah.
We'll get a new governor and, that's
Good change.
subject, could be subject to change. And so the follow-up question would be, if that were to go away and we would be going back to funded by based on need, about how much staff would we lose because of that?
So there's two aspects to this. One, I would reserve for closed session for reasons that have to do with strategy on emergency planning, because actually CNS is part of our emergency response team. And Carly has worked with me over the last 2 years to have in place a soft landing plan for the district should funding, because we've had funding threatened for 2 years straight. Okay, so and I don't want to reveal too much about that in open session, but we can get you numbers on a comparative of what it would cost to run programs and how much we are staffing, because we are substantially staffing out of that fund. We can provide all those numbers to you and share those with that item.
Correct. Moving to different topic, right now we have this issue of the bacteria as it relates to vegetables. So how are we thinking about, as you're doing the work and any some of those that we're providing right now?
Yeah, great question. So the source of the parasite has not yet been identified. Out of an abundance of caution, we have removed leafy greens because that is one of the main sources that they're identifying. Besides that, on a daily basis, anytime we have fruits or vegetables, it's all thoroughly washed with an antimicrobial wash. So that is still our continued practice for that, but we did go ahead and remove leafy greens from the menus just out of an abundance of caution.
Added in, so we'll do that until further notice.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. As it relates to food waste, what is our process and protocols? Working with the local food bank and making sure that, we do our best, like not just throw food in the trash.
Right, so SB 1383 came into effect a few years ago, so that's the requirement for any food facility to go and have donation procedures of food. So we are in close working relations with multiple different food banks, multiple food donation organizations. And so our process is, once a school site makes their meals, first, our staff is amazing at knowing their students, knowing what they like, and knowing how many meals that they need to make. So their waste numbers are very tight. When they do have extras, because we always want to offer our students everything, all of the options, all of the choices. So there will always be a little bit of extra leftovers. Those items then are frozen, stored in their freezer, labeled, and then they're taken to our central warehouse, where then they go in our freezer, and then we contact our donation agencies. They bring out a truck, they pick up our food, and then they bring it and then serve their populations. So the only food that is actively being wasted is salad bar items for elementary schools, because it's just not safe to bring that food back. If it's an apple, if it's a whole orange, if it's something with a peel that can be safely re-washed, then that can be done. But if you're talking about chopped lettuce, things like that has to be discarded out of food safety.
About green waste and like compost.
Yes, so all of the school sites, they have their compost bins. As Dr. Losher stated, our elementary schools are wonderful at sorting and organizing their items. And then all of those items are composted.
So we have that as part of our agreement. We use the same company as the city as part of sort of our integrated services. We use Edco. They take all compostable items, they take it back, they actually make a biofuel out of it. All of the local trash trucks are actually fueled off of the organic waste.
And then my last question is around Boulder. We have like dishwasher, we're trying to go back into this, like, less plastic and obviously for good reasons. Can you talk to me about the impacts of the workforce on that? Is it more work? Is it just less different work or?
It's different, it's gonna change it, it's gonna be more, which is why we're going to be staffing, having that site heavier staffed. With the dishwasher, there's gonna be training, we have a dishwasher over at Vista High School, so we do have some experience with this. However, the newest thing is we're gonna have plastic reusable trays and reusable utensils, so it's gonna take some training with the students. But the idea is you have your hot wells, all the food will get served directly on the trays, so there's gonna be much less single-use plastics, much less paper waste of the items for our students. Trays will get returned and then we'll be able to run them through the dishwasher. We do have a surplus of trays, so there'll never be a shortage. We'll always have time to go ahead and thoroughly wash all of our smallware equipment. Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to say, I'm not sure if you're aware, but California is actually not really experiencing much of a cyclospora outbreak. So I'm kind of concerned nutritionally that we're not feeding leafy greens to our students.
So we take the state recommendations, and I think the words that Carly used is where we go. When it comes to students, out of an abundance of caution, we always err on the side of being cautious. Understood, we're monitoring the situation, but we're gonna continue to err on the side of caution. And we'll look at other things for supplement, so thank you, but we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. That was a great.
Thank you.
great report.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, CNS.
Okay, next is 16C, Transportation Services Annual Report.
Oh, this is the big one that you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Right. This one's a little different. This one actually is a report in two different documents. So you have what is called the service plan that is published every year. Tracy publishes that and it's out there. She's required to, because there's some information about transportation that oftentimes isn't remembered, which is we actually get reimbursements for transportation, not just grants, but transportation for general. So she's going to cover all those things. Ms. Mangold's presentation this evening is split into three separate parts. It's going to talk about the metric report from last year. Then she's going to talk a little bit about like what are we doing as we plan for this upcoming school year, and then what are the transitions sort of in the future that are happening regarding both the electrification. This is, you know, I oftentimes look over at Tracy and say, you know, not many people sign up for a wholesale change of their industry. Tracy loves the thump of the diesel engine as much as I do, but she's really been leading this, and it's not an easy change. Buses are going from mechanical devices to electronic devices. This is everything. So she's going to talk a little bit about the overview of the plans, because we do have plans in place and we have things moving forward. And then finally, she's going to share something with you that is a new format, which is she's going to talk about routes. And that's where you're going to get your average mile cost per bus that Dr. Doyle loves so dearly. When you talk about adding something, we want to talk about it in a financially prudent way for you to make informed decisions. So she's going to talk about what are the startup costs. Does it cost one thing to start something new? Then she's going to talk about the annual cost. What does it cost after you've started it up to run it every year? And then she's going to give you an overview of what we call the cyclical cost. Like, just because you start something doesn't mean that you're not going to do something every 5 to 7 years or 3 years. There's things that come along that you have to do. So just because you have a startup cost of, let's say, $500,000 to do something and an annual cost of $100,000, that's not your end cost. Every 5 years or so, you have certifications and updates and all sorts of things you have to do. So that way you're informed if you're going to talk about what do we do with bus routing. So I turn this over to Tracy Mangold, who is going to bring you through. We're working on brief presentations, so we hope you enjoy it. And if you have follow-up questions, we're prepared to take notes and get back to you on any item.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight. You know, I'm Tracy Mangold. I'm the Director of Transportation, and I'm happy to be here. The first thing that I would like to talk to you about is an overview of the department for the 25-26 school year. Last year, we had 14 general education routes that we provided transportation to, with an average ridership of 776. We had 43 special ed routes. We completed 1,034 activity and field trips. The drivers completed 11,340 daily inspections of the vehicle. And we certified 10 bus driver trainees as certified school bus drivers. The Senate bill that provides us the up to a 60% reimbursement was Senate Bill 114, also known as the Home to School Transportation Bill. The fleet composition, we have 63 yellow school buses and 28 of those are electric. There are 115 white fleet vehicles. 28 of those are electric. 13 chargers we have in the bus yard. The district-wide yellow fleet and white fleet vehicle maintenance, the mechanics completed over 170 work orders on the school buses and the white fleet. Well, that would have been just the white fleet. And they did 252 safety inspections on the school buses. This is about the ridership of the school buses. For Mission Vista High School, we had 2 shuttles and 1 route for a total capacity. We could seat 300. We had 210 riders, which made the utilization percentage 70. The utilization percentage for Roosevelt was 72%. The utilization percentage for Madison was 50%. Breeze Hill, 36%. Grapevine, 30%. Mission Meadows, 50%. Monte Vista, 25%. And Honolulu, 40%.
It's important to note, when you talk about percentages, you're not looking at apples and oranges. For 2 reasons. First of all, when you have littler kids, the capacity of the bus goes up because you can see 3 to a row versus 2. So that shifts the percentage, just to be clear. The second is, while we can do 100%, that isn't necessarily all the best for student behavior and for trips in comfort and other things. So you're not always looking for 100%. A number right in that 70% ballpark for a middle school, high school route, it is a good occupancy number that you tend to look for. And we look right there about the 50% mark for our elementary school kids. Somewhere in there seems to be a really good, robust number.
Is there a way that we could increase the ridership on some of these lower, like Madison and Monte Vista? Some of these routes that are, Grapevine.
Well, remember, we can't mandate transportation. It is an option for families. It's advertised to families in the newsletter and it's shared with them, and anybody is welcome to sign up.
No, but I was thinking about maybe combining routes or something, or.
So route composition would be something that would take us hours in a workshop to go into. Route composition is really difficult because in some cases, the elementary school is also the middle school. So they leave at different times and they move through. So it's not really possible to combine routing as in most cases, because then what you do is you increase the total number of drivers that you actually have in a different way because of traffic patterns. They calculate that out with the help of computer programs on the most effective way they can get through the routing.
I was thinking about something like if you have a bus that, takes kids to Grapevine and then could go to Madison, pick up, stop at one. I don't know that would work. I'm just picking 2 schools off of this. I don't know that would work. But what I'm saying is that you have that maybe would stop at an elementary school and then on to.
So right now they do elementary schools, then they move on to middle schools. The high school routes are separate. But they can't typically do 2 elementary schools because of the space and distance.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that pick up the kids for elementary and middle school.
No, we don't put kindergartners on the same bus with 8th graders. We keep those 2 populations separate.
And as I recall, when we were looking at the start times and what was mandated through the state of California, like we looked at all that strategically and we deliberated a long time on what would be good so that we could utilize the bus fleet to its capacity. Are we still using that type of format that we decided on when they made us change the start time
Sure.
for high school?
So the start times currently still reflect those changes in the law, and the answer would be in the absence of the law, you absolutely could change routes differently. But recall, in the state of California, going back in California history, the 7:30 start time for high schools was based upon traffic patterns, not based upon student learning, right? When we started to change things around student learning, it changed what you could do for transportation patterns. So now you are locked into a different thing. And yes, it does now require more staffing than it used to, but that's in part why the state is sort of the comeback to that now is doing reimbursements.
Well, what about procuring, and I don't know if they make smaller buses, but what if we procure smaller buses? Like if we're gonna be going forward and there's these grants and we can expand the fleet. If there's like a mid-size or a smaller type bus that we could use, so that like if you have only 25% of the buses full, that 25% of the bus full that's going to Monte Vista, maybe you use a smaller bus and then suddenly you're at 50 or 75%.
Thank you very much. We actually offer right now 3 different size buses. We're giving you an overview. We have a small bus, a mid-sized bus, and a large bus. And we'd be happy to take anybody for a ride. We love doing that. But actually, we have diversified the fleet when it comes to special education. Not only do we have, for most special education ridership, we have a smaller bus, but now we have a white fleet vehicle van. And then also there's certain routes for McKinney-Vento students, also for special education students. And then for students that are on specialized services that we can't necessarily talk about out in the open, would they only have 1 or 2 riders? We actually have a small SUV for them in that case. So we currently diversified the fleet.
Right, but how many riders does the smallest school bus seat? How many riders, what's the capacity of that smallest school bus that we have? Not a van, but.
So all the smallest ones currently are for special ed. And the special ed ridership is way higher than it's been, and we haven't been able to get.
No. Sean, Dr. Wishler, I'm trying to actually think that if we get more of those smaller buses. I'm looking at Monte Vista, which has an average of 21 students per day. If we had a bus that had a capacity of like 35 students, then suddenly that 25% is suddenly going up.
Understood. And again, this would take hours in a workshop. That bus leaves there and then goes and does a field trip. So it doesn't just do one thing.
I understand. I am asking a question. The question is, how many students are seated on the smallest capacity school bus? What's capacity of the smallest school bus?
15.
15.
15.
All right.
15.
Thank you. And then what's the capacity of the medium-sized school bus?
Well, they have they have variable rating capacities because we remove seats. So it could be that it has up to 40 seats, but if we have it, we
would depend on
remove seats so that we can transport 2 wheelchairs.
Right.
So they're variable rated for capacity, so it's a hard question to ask, but I'd be happy to get you a chart and put it in the Friday letter.
Well, I'm just thinking that like if we can procure more buses, we can actually save the bigger buses for maybe this more impacted routes. And like I said, something that's in between 15 is too small for Monte Vista, but if there was one that, like you said, 40 students, then maybe a 40 student capacity bus, then you're at, 50%, but as opposed to 25%.
A lot of times throughout the school year, that would be a great solution, but the bus does go and service other schools.
But what we could do, if you'd like, we can bring this topic back to really dig into bus utilization and route use.
Yeah, maybe a
If the
workshop.
board's
Yeah.
interested
Maybe
in
a
it.
workshop would be.
But we're not intending to frustrate you. It's just a really complex conversation.
I understand.
And the bus may need to go on a field trip.
Mhm.
And the driver needs to be in that bus because we need that bus to service another nearby school who's taking a trip that day.
We actually could set up a workshop. We have a consultant that is sort of the state person that works on routing with all of us, and they work on this on an annual basis. So we could set up a workshop.
But my question is, when we talk about buzzing and the costs, is the majority of the cost of the transportation department going to salaries and benefits and, or is it the cost of a bus.
Yeah.
I mean, help me understand that, right? It's people.
Well, we're gonna go through that in a later slide where we do
Okay.
the startup cost. You'll see the cost of a bus. And you're gonna see the annual cost, including the maintenance costs and upkeep. And then when we talk about cyclical costs and certain things, every so often you have to replace the engines, the transmissions, or the electric motors and the other items. So we'll look at those three cost factors in this presentation.
Right, and then, yeah, the pros of, having those buses available for, field trips across the district and then maximizing that for grade levels, right, when they try to go places. It's hard.
Well, we'll turn it back over to Tracy. You do have some temporary routes that you put into place. So we wanted to cover the temporary routes and their status, right? So here we are for temporary routes.
The Bovier to Beaumont Drive, for the 24 through 26 school year, we had 3 routes. Olive to Vita for the 25 through 27, for 25-26, we had 2 shuttles, and for the 26-27, we will have 1. The bus utilization of the Bovier buses was at 67% and Vita was at 66%.
These are services that the board committed to and via board direction, and we followed through on all of them and all the items. Now on to a very brief overview of what's happening with electrification, because a lot is going into this.
The employee transition plan, all of our employees that drive the white fleet and that drive the yellow school buses that are electric receive special training so they know how to operate the vehicle. Training for our mechanics has come available through A to Z bus sales, and there is more training classes available that they can take to become EV technicians. Fleet charging and route management, Dr. Loescher, he talked about that a little bit when we were talking with the Action Climate Committee. It does take some management to make sure that every bus has enough charge to go and pick up the students in the morning, but our team does a fantastic job of making sure that that happens. Electrification of the fleet status, we have 56 vehicles as of July 2026. 28 electric buses, 28 white fleet. There are 13, I mentioned before, I'm sorry, it's on there redundant, 13 chargers in the yard. Supporting infrastructure transition, district-owned EV chargers, permanent. This is a picture of our permanent transformer being put in. For years now, we have been on temporary power, so we have our transformer, which is a huge step in the right direction, with the goal being for every bus to have its own charger.
Has that been completed or is it still in the process?
Dr. Doyle and I were there today.
We just saw it, it's nearly done.
Okay.
I didn't talk to them today, but I did know that they had one more day, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure they.
It's nearly complete.
It's in there testing it. I think, to summarize the challenge of electrification, there's factors within our control, there's some factors outside of our control, right? So let's sort of talk about the things outside of our control. There is not enough electricity on any single school site or here to charge all the buses. We charge it at night after we shut down the buildings, okay? So that is a particular challenge. That's not a fault of the school district. This has happened a lot more rapidly than many electric companies have recognized. In order to get the charge that we require, SDG&E needs us to pull electrical wires several miles to get here. That's how much electricity we're talking about. Cities experiencing the same thing, it's not us alone. So we are working through a lot of different creative solutions, chargers in different places, how we go about doing that, shutting down facilities, looking at how we maximize our energy structure until the electricity is able to get here. That will be in an upcoming presentation. The next is really, we've been focusing a lot in our discussions about what do we do for the employees. Our mechanics will move from working on a petroleum-based engine to being EV electric technicians, right? This is fundamentally different. And in some ways, it's really exciting. Because you drop electric motors and you send them away to a different place and they get repaired and you put them in and other things will be ongoing, but also at the same time. We're having to start to look at things that just haven't been done. We have not been positioned, the school district hasn't been positioned to manage 100 chargers across the district. That's a brand new skill set. And it's not a light skill set. So for these sorts of things, transportation, which historically has talked about all of these mechanical things, is working with IT on how they do that. We have a fundamentally different way. The buses are smart buses. Kids, we know where every kid is because they're checking in and they're doing things. So you have those in place. And then the fleet. The fleet is a matter of waiting, in most cases, for grant opportunities to arrive so we can pounce on those and maximize our local dollars. But it's not quite as simple as that. A bus can take 2 to 3, even 4 years to manufacture and get to us. So some of it is opportunities for the white fleets for standardization. I know some people have said, so why don't you just grab whatever vehicle you can? Then they would be impossible to maintain because you have no standardization for the mechanics to maintain. So we have to standardize and then start down the road. So these are some of the challenges. Just I'm trying to be complimentary that Tracy and the team are managing that are completely different on this transition.
We plan to have 56 routes, 13 general education routes this year. And we're working on building the routes this year. We're still processing applications. We haven't received them all yet, but we are actively working on building the routes. So it could be more or less than the same number that we had last year. We currently have 50 drivers, 11 transportation assistants, and 2, these are the positions that we are short. 6 drivers, transportation assistants, we're short 2, and we're short 2 driver trainers. Transition and development, we continue to diversify. There's a diversification of the fleet. We're working on the van driver position. And the routes will continue to fluctuate because we condense routes where we always condense routes where we can so that we operate in the most efficient way possible.
I think what the team has done, it's hard to look at some of these numbers and monitor progress. Over the last 4 years, the number of routes for special education has dramatically increased. Okay. And when that's happened, what we have had is this sort of bizarre confluence of things happening. The first is a national bus driver shortage. So we had to work through developing it, and Tracy and her team train we have our own bus driver school now. Because there aren't enough people out there that are producing bus drivers. So we take care of that internally now as one of the options. The next thing that's up is a whole different groups in partnership with HR working with CSEA. We came up with a whole pipeline on how to do that, where you go from a trainee status because before you had to basically quit your job to go to bus driver school, right? So we had to come up with a whole new process for people to get into the profession and move them through. The next was something we've talked about over the last few years, and is coming to T now. You heard about it with CSEA speaking this evening, that there is this van driver position and they just have a TA on this bidding process. That there's a whole other position. That's because we are moving where we have different size that are right size vehicles for rapid transportation options. So that way we can move away. The amount of contracting with external sources for that has dramatically fallen off because of these things. So it's a huge compliment to HR and everybody working together to address these challenges. And although the numbers don't feel like they're different, they are different because we have almost double the number of routes we're running now. So it's a pretty huge compliment. So this is our slide that we're trying. You are first time we're doing it. Again, these are the costs, and Tracy will walk you through. Yeah, so if you're going to add a route, and we don't have certain things, what would be the cost of adding a route? And then, of course, there's the whole thing of, so what does it cost every year to run a route, right? And the different aspects. And then every so often, we can't really predict the future, but we know you have to recertify everybody. That's about $10,000. but it's about $70,000 every 5 or so years of things you have to do way beyond the regular maintenance and other things. So Tracy, can you walk us through this? And again, for broad budgetary purposes, that's what these are.
So the startup costs, if a new school bus would cost $435,000. The equipment for the bus would cost $7,300. The driver training, this includes the wage for the driver instructor and the bus driver trainee, would be $27,760. And an average annual cost to operate the route would be $81,829. Potentially, a cost to start up a new route, if you had to buy a bus, would be $551,889. The annual cost would include the driver's salary and benefits and the maintenance on the bus, the charging and fuel cost and the tires. And the estimated cost would be $83,829.
So when you talk about things like operational efficiency, and we talk about petroleum products and diesel and the other items, we're looking at a rate of about $5 a mile for those diesel buses to roll and under $1 a mile for an electric bus to roll. That's one of the reasons we talk about it. In addition to be better for the air, in particular for special ed students, students love it. It's not so loud. The noise, the factors, the distractions, the others are completely different. Not to mention, everybody loves a new vehicle. We take pride. One of the things I really love going off and doing is I walk the yard early in the morning and late. We take pride in transporting our students. Tracy's team is incredibly prideful. Those buses are clean, inside and out, every day. They're updating them and cleaning them, and they want them to reflect every student just feeling like this is my school district, this is my home. So, and then the cyclical cost we included here again, an estimate of what it would be. So this is sort of, if you're talking about in either tonight or in the future, gee, what would we do for routes? You have these. Now, here's the big message though. Your startup costs don't really qualify for that 60% reimbursement. It's your annual costs for a general education route alone qualify for that. We're currently dissecting and trying to understand. Dr. Doyle and I have been on conferences trying to understand this new budget. It appears there may be some more funding for special education. That's very exciting for all of us because that's the first time we're seeing a percentage increase to get to that matching funding that they're supposed to do at that level. We'll know more about that here shortly. On the 45-day revision will be our first go around, and then we'll see court cases and everything. It will refine. But this is for planning purposes. This is about what it costs if you want to start it up, what it costs to run, and everything else. Some people have asked, so $83,000. The answer is, what is the benefits of transportation, providing transportation? Well, students go to school more often typically, so you typically are recouping it on ADA. They're not as late, less traffic. There's a lot of benefits. And typically school districts that don't have their own internal transportation system spend this or more because they're still doing field trips and then they contract out for all of it. So there's a lot of factors on all these things to consider.
There's a couple points. The startup cost, correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, but your team has been successful getting grants that would kind of pick away at the startup costs when we buy
Yes.
buses.
I could potentially get a grant for a new bus, but it would take us a while to get it.
Yeah. I just want you to know that we don't necessarily pay the $500,000 because we can get grants to pay for it.
Right.
And some of the buses we currently use, we had grants for.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. Tracy has sued VW successfully and got reimbursement funds. That was my favorite. Sorry, I shouldn't mention their name. It was a court settlement, but we did. And the HVIP grant from the state of California has been probably one of the most powerful grants. We have been asked, in particular, by Trustee Morocco, can't we just use the bus for another reason? The answer is no. They make us crush the engine, then destroy the engine. We got to pour sugar in it, run it till it blows, and then crush the bus and send it back to them as proof. But the purposes, they want them off the road and they want proof. Yeah.
This also addresses Trustee Alvarado's question about What do we spend more on, the people or the buses? And so the middle one, the green one, tells you how much we really spend. Once we own the bus, it's $83,000 per bus.
Yeah.
So most of our money, correct me if I'm wrong, goes into people. Once we procure the bus, it's mostly people and gas.
Yeah, that's correct. It's mostly fuel maintenance, people being calculated here, both in the bus driver, the maintenance cost reflects the mechanics. To outsource mechanical items is like $150 an hour, generally to $200 an hour of what it costs. So we have our own team doing that. And then charging and fuel costs. This is last year's number. I can't tell you with what's happening with fuel costs, what it will be. You know, and Tracy has done a masterful job on managing her budget. She hasn't actually gone over budget, even though the last few years have represented massive fuel spikes. In part, the electric buses help to offset that.
And I think it's great that we have a bus fleet that allows our students to go on field trips. I know I organized a field trip for my kindergarten group, and we just went to the safari park. It was $790 for like 5 hours, and I wrote a grant and I got it from the Zoological Society. But if I had not written that grant, our kids wouldn't have access to these learning experiences that many of them can't afford to go to. So that's another added bonus, is that flexibility. And then, you know, less idling at the school sites where the teachers and the staff don't have to breathe so much, you know, bad idle air, smog, all that stuff. If you have duty after school, you know how rough it is. Not everyone has a new car that shuts off automatically when they're like stops. So I just think I'm really happy with what we've done and how much we're saving. I mean, there's so many benefits. It's exciting, and I think some districts probably are a little bit upset that we got those grants initially, because I think we rewrote a grant right away. And
Yeah, we were way out in front.
Yeah, and then we were taking bus drivers, so I mean, it's good for us, but I think the surrounding districts might be like, wait.
Yeah, we
Do
get
something
calls.
for us.
We get calls. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Any
I'd like
last
to
questions?
see you again. I want to see the new buses.
Yeah, they're cool.
Okay, I'm gonna go for the right.
Make sure you check out the white fleet too.
Yeah.
It's not just the buses, the white fleet's amazing.
Yeah. We're better at driving them now.
Yes.
The first time Dr. Doyle and I got on the first day on the electric bus, we had some motion sickness because there's instantaneous torque. So everybody has to get retrained. It's a different experience, but we're really proud of them. And I say again, I'm really proud of the transportation team
They're
for
doing
4
amazing.
years of adaptive leadership over and over again. It's really fun.
They never let me drive the bus because I wanted to drift it. As soon as I said that, they said, "You're not driving the bus."
Is that never speaking of everything?
Well,
Thank you
Tracy's
so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations on doing it with a 16%, like 16% of your staff.
Yeah.
Not there.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
with your
great.
open position, so you're doing a great job, thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
And keeping our kids safe.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
That's where.
Do you
I
guys
live in
Let's take a
Breeze.
break.
want
That's right.
like a 5-minute break? Is that okay?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break and then we got the last.
it away. We are live now.
All right. Move on to 16D, the Asset Management Advisory Committee 2026-2028 discussion of first topic, session topic.
Thank you kindly for this opportunity. We have been through a previous discussion about the Assets Management Advisory Committee, and we've been able to provide you with some additional information that was most appropriate for closed session for some of the questions that came up regarding this. Again, Asset Management Advisory Committee, we're not going to go into any depth on the information that's publicly available, and we have provided on multiple occasions. But here is again an overview of the committee and the sorts of things that they do. Again, on slide 3, we go through this. These are the requirements of the committee. Again, a committee, the big notion here is that they're committed to the topic that the board specifies. Either the board or the state or other things. An AMAC is a state specified board. And for that reason, it has to adhere to certain requirements, and then the board can decide what they talk about. Remember, you can assign them different topics at different times. They're stood up for 2 years. We do, however, as our local practice, we don't run AMACs the way other districts typically have. Typically, they'll form and they'll meet one time, maybe twice. They're done. We typically meet with them on 5 separate sessions, depending upon topic review, and then we go off and have a community engagement session, which is separate, a separate forum, because again, an AMAC is a Brown Act committee, just like your Board of Education. They can't do certain things. They can't interact with the public. Therefore, we do the community engagement forums because Dr. Doyle and I can, and we go and we are part of this. So what does that look like in terms of process? Typically, we kick them off in an introductory process. These are not professional members. And remember, they simply make a report to you. You make the decisions. The requirement of the state is to get the input. What you do with the input is completely up to you, right? But we typically orientate them on Brown Act, then we go through information gathering. And then right about step 3 is where we go off in community engagement, because that's where there's enough information to share with the community something about what's being looked at, right? Sometimes we'll do it at the kickoff as well. So this is just a sample timeline. So this topic has come up. The previous AMAC did several things, and one thing they did is they did gather information, not just on recommendations on the property they reviewed. They actually made additional recommendations back to the board, and they said, if you are to move Vita from the Washington location on Olive over to the Rancho location, right? They said, if you do that, because you hadn't ordered that, then they recommended the following, that you look at the parcels that adjoin that property. So this is an example where the committee was making recommendations about the future for your consideration. And that brings us back to the discussion of you now have a committee membership. We can form it at any time if you would like. However, we do need a topic to kick them off for the first session so they can make their report to you. After they make their first report, you can specify additional topics, additional properties. You're welcome to do as many as you want. But you do have standing recommendations just for that old Vita property on Olive. But this was, again, the parcel number. The committee also suggests the board consider the properties directly adjacent to 740 Olive was their recommendation for your consideration. And we reported in closed session on some of the staff findings on additional questions. So to that, our purpose is to listen as the board deliberates. If it's the will of the board that we proceed, there's nothing to vote on, but just a consensus. Do we proceed? What do we do? And what would the topic be?
All right, back to the board.
Sure. I'm actually, this is gonna be kind of their first, dipping their toe in the water, and I'm comfortable with kind of following up with the work of our previous committee, and their recommendation.
I agree. I would kind of like to open up, have them look at the long range master facility plan for other sites that might potentially. I was thinking there might be some sites that we could actually relocate to that property that might, that like if we needed to I don't know that we could do it with this bond money that we're, that's coming up, if the bond was to pass, if we'd have enough money, but potentially. Maybe that site could be used to move, like off the top of my head, I'm thinking. Vapa and Calab, all that,
Can you say which side? Are you talking about both?
I'm talking about the Vita site, the old Vita site, in Washington. Well, I'm talking about this, they're talking about, taking all three parcels, the Vic, the old Vita. And, that little sliver that's right next, or that whole thing,
Okay.
what you're talking about,
Yeah,
Mike.
Jason, where, yes.
The JCCS, yeah. I'm talking about all of that.
No.
And, yeah, I'm talking about, I agree with you on that, but maybe we could ask them to also take a look at the entire long-range master facility plan. And identify sites that potentially we could maybe move, if we could have the money, that we could build. Schools on that site, this property, this cohort of properties. That are clustered together, like, so I'm thinking in particular, like, if you look at Vapa and Calhoun. Those sites, if we were to rebuild. New school sites over on these Washington properties, and we could move. Those schools from those sites, then, cause I think those are pretty. Tired, those sites.
There's a couple of things that, make me concerned about that. Number one, we don't know if the voters will approve the bond, so I feel like we're
I
putting the
agree.
cart before the horse. And we don't wanna stir up and give people hopes we're gonna rebuild your school if it doesn't pass. So that's one thing that I'm concerned about. Number two, you're taking like the neighborhood school concept out of VAPA, like it's a neighborhood school, it's got a joint use park with I feel like that's too big and we need to give this committee a very narrow scope of, not very narrow, but that's too wide. I mean, I feel like that's a
Okay.
very wide scope
Well,
with so much uncertainty. If you were to tell me that December, and if the bond were to pass and be approved by the voter, then I would say, yeah, let's look at how we could utilize this property while potential other schools are either modernized or rebuilt, but I don't know if that's the best use of these folks' time.
Okay,
this
so-
committee at this time. at this point.
I hear what you're saying, and that's a very valid point. I would like to, but I'm just wondering, when would we be expected to receive sort of a recommendation from this committee?
So an asset management advisory committee by law can only give you input on a site that you've identified. They can't identify their own site. What
I see.
typically a board would do is if you had interest in that, you would retain an architect with a specific ask of the architect. And that architect would work with a broad team, including district demographers, all sorts of things. So it's a really complicated thing to look at the various zones. And they would come back and make a recommendation and say, we think you should probably look at a couple of schools in this area or that area based upon facilities or other things. And then at that point, you would identify if we did, once you take an action, typically, you identify the AMAC to say, so now what's your community feedback for what we want to do with that? And that's anytime you take a property that currently has educational use and you switch it to non-educational use with one change in the law, just to be clear, from the previous AMAC. The change in the law that I have a duty to report to you is you no longer have to ask the community about workforce housing. That's no longer an AMAC requirement
Okay.
at all. You can take any excess property and use it for that purpose without having any change. That's permitted now. Before, you had to have a recommendation from an AMAC come up in some way. So that's different.
Well, I know that at one of the workshops we talked about, an aquatic center, and I still maintain that looking at it, like putting some, sort of sports facility, community center would be a good idea.
Think we need to, I think that again would require bond money, I believe, or maybe the long term, that's a lot of money. I think we're looking for a starting jumping off point for them, is that?
Yeah, typically, and AMACs will, so what we typically you see AMACs do is you, for example, let me give you an example process. If the board were to identify this parcel and say, we want you to look at the parcel next to it and the parcel in whole. The AMAC most likely would say, and start with, the previous AMAC had 3 recommendations. Do we concur with the recommendations now that we're considering not just the Washington property, but the adjacent properties? Does this recommendation from the community still hold water, yes or no? And they're usually very broad recommendations. For example, they say things like maximize educational use, or they say maximize for district use, or they say enter a joint use for community use. They're very broad. They're not specific because the power to make the actual decision for anything is up to you.
With Steve Open.
I'm looking at that slide with the recommendations, and if you zoom in, you can't see them right now, but part of the recommendations from that committee at that time, at least for the Beaumont side, we're looking at Parks and Rec. I think we are exploring that also with the city of Vista.
Correct.
So that could be something to, continue to look at for that specific site. We keep hearing about needs for baseball sites, and I have a feeling that a baseball site is a lot cheaper than an aquatic center. I'm also seeing on here workforce housing, which is a topic that we discussed in the past. And not just, with this committee, but, parallel, like we should have discussion about that. We're looking at San Diego, they're about to break 2,000 units on this alone, and it's costing the district $0. And so there's a way where we can, create a creative contract with developers to, make it a win-win for the district and the developer. I don't see it on here, but I do remember last time we spoke, another recommendation was like a mixed use center, so like tutoring with like, district office space. Now that's a conversation, same thing, we don't have the money for that. But if like, we want to get like at least the conversation started, that could be a starting point, knowing that, it's likely, likely we'll make that happen because of funding.
I believe the recommendation the trustees recommending is under the middle school, it said suggestion of use regarding Vita should it be vacated, so the Washington property, Olive property. It says that if the property is vacated, the recommendation would be repurposed for workforce housing and a community center. That's what they had stated, that they wanted to do. Again, you don't have to do that as a board. The requirement legally was for you to get the feedback. It's your decision what to do.
Be only talking about this property, or isn't there anything else that we're talking about with them?
Well, it has to be an excess property. It has to be a property not of educational use. This is the only one that Beaumont had a recommendation for it already. Typically, you don't ask a committee for a recommendation and then ask for a second recommendation of the committee because that was the purpose. You've met the legal requirement. You can hold other forums for it. For the middle school, what's different is there was this strange if statement, which is the board hasn't voted to move the actual school. It's just our recommendation. If you do, then you have this vacated property. And if you have the vacated property, the committee felt strongly, and we said we would report that they thought you should be looking at the VIC as well, because the VIC was not part of the conversation up above, nor that sliver of land. That's why this recommendation came back, was from the committee itself.
Well, so, I wanted to speak to, the recommendations from the committee beforehand, and what's changed now is the school, Vita being moved over to Foothill, and I would like to ask my fellow trustees to reconsider, workforce housing. Number one, because that's something that everybody needs, our employees need it, but since our last conversation about this, we had a bipartisan bill that was passed by Congress, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. And what that bill may or may not, but I know that HUD will be awarding competitive grants to to entities across the nation for housing. And we might be able to position ourselves to receive, to partner with federal, state, and county government, along with nonprofits, to be able to develop some workforce housing in conjunction with the community center, with baseball fields, with soccer fields, especially because that piece of land is so huge. And again, it was bipartisan, so we know that the community wants it. Our elected officials want it across the nation, our state officials want it. I really want to implore this board to reconsider and utilize that land to benefit our employees and our community. So I would open that up to this discussion, please.
I would be interested in trying a workforce housing. I think that that is a CSBA push. I think it benefits the construction laborer. I don't think it benefits our students. You're talking about the most expensive school site property that we have in the center of the Vista. It's extremely valuable as a school site. I don't think we should be giving it away for workforce housing. I also think workforce housing is not panning out as well as people think. And if we want to try it on another piece of property, absolutely. We have that firehouse that has been vacated, go for it. But with the biggest piece of property that we have, once you take that school off there and you put apartments there, it will never be a school site again, never. And I don't think that that's in the best interest of Vista Unified. I don't think it's in the best interest of our community. I do think there's other properties that we can look at.
So we wouldn't be giving the land away, it would still remain property of this district. And there's room for a combination of different things on that plot of land. It's huge.
My hesitation on the workforce housing, especially on that piece of land for right now, I agree with trustee Martin, I would like to see it on a smaller.
Can I just interrupt? Is like, I think we're missing the topic of what we were asking the Game Act to do. And I'm just pointing it out, this could be a topic that we can bring back as an agenda item, right? So that might, like, as a discussion or a discussion item in for a future meeting, would that be acceptable?
But President Markov, it's on the slide.
Oh, workers housing?
It's
Oh,
on the slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. Yeah, no, okay, it's in the presentation here.
So,
Right.
as I was saying,
Okay.
my hesitation, I agree with trustee Martin, I'd like to see it on a smaller scale and make sure that it works, but my hesitation comes from the financing. The way that I've seen that it was explained to me that it would be financed is we would lease the land to a developer and a developer could charge up to 10% below market rate for these units. Our classified employees, we don't pay them enough to afford 10% below the market rate. A lot of, especially our new hires, our new teachers, we don't pay them enough to be able to afford that. So I don't see that working as, working out for workforce housing. I'd like to see some different ways of financing it possibly. But I also agree that, I agree with trustee Martin on that, let's start with a smaller project and see how it pans out. I'm amenable to that. But for this property, that's why I think using it for like a sports complex with fields, soccer fields or baseball diamonds and all of that stuff could be a really good interim step. And if we see that it pans out and it works great and it accomplishes what we needed to accomplish with workforce housing, then we can reconsider it. But right now, I'm also hesitant about that. Putting it there. Again, like I said, the financing, if you can show me numbers that we can finance it in a way that would work, I fully support the idea of workforce housing. If it works, it's a great thing, but I don't see it penciling out on paper.
Dr. Loescher and Dr. Doyle, I'd like a consensus to leave explore this idea. And I did hear, another trustee talk about the fire station site, so we can move that project as soon as possible and get it.
Yeah.
Proof of concept. But Dr. Loescher, question for you. Do you have an understanding of San Diego using how they're doing it with the developers and like the I guess more of like the nuts and bolts of formula.
Yeah, I actually met with San Diego Unified for 3 hours on this topic, last week. To talk through and understand what they're doing it. They have multiple models in place. I think, you know, what the trustee was referring to is they are. Looking at a 2,000 unit item. They also have a bond that they placed on the ballot where they actually have listed workforce housing. As a bond item. So they are looking at multiple models. One model is currently available. I know we talk about it as something in the future. Actually, they've been running it for 8 years. There's a model available at the former EV Scripps site. They moved into that site. They have 257 units at that site. 200 units go back to the developer for profit. 57 units are under district control for district specified pricing. They leased the land at $1 million a year. They did not pay to develop the property. They also had a career technical education facility for the region put in for elementary school exploration in the center. So that's what they've already done. I can't speak to all of their plans for the 2,000 units. They're still moving through that process on negotiating it, so they weren't free to speak on that one too.
Just for the purpose of this, these are great conversations, but the item tonight isn't workforce housing. The item is, what direction would you like to give to the AMAC? We would love to bring back a separate workshop on workforce housing, so we can really dig into it and give you more specificity around it, and you can give us more direction. You don't need the AMAC to make that decision. Tonight, we just.
Outside of their scope. Actually.
Yeah, it's out of their scope, so we just need direction on what you would like to do with the AMAC for this item.
So maybe revisiting the recommendations based on combining the properties, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that would be something that would be within their scope.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, the reason I brought it up is because it wasn't specified that law has changed. You told us.
Yes,
You told us. right?
absolutely. That
And
was
so that's why I brought it up,
Yes,
because I was imploring my fellow trustees to have a change of, mind, so that we don't, restrict what folks may or may recommend, but now we know that that's just a decision that we can make on our own,
Yeah,
and that's why
we-
it's germane to this subject, though, that's why I brought it up.
yeah.
And we
two-
will agendize that for you in a future meeting.
Correct. Two decisions you can always make. When you have a school site without community input, you can choose to put another school on it without community input. And you can choose workforce housing, or those are options you can choose. That is the law.
Or you can get community input.
You can get
It doesn't
community
preclude
input,
you
just because
from
you don't
getting-
have to legally, you can't.
Well, that's why I didn't wanna
Yeah.
restrict the AMAC to say, you can't talk about that.
Is there any consensus from the board about what you would like us to do with the current AMAC in terms of a topic you'd like them to address? And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, you can choose not to have them address the topic right now. They can just wait until you're ready for them to do work.
That's correct. This committee has been stood up. It is at your direction. So there's no requirement to have it at this moment.
So I think we should maybe withhold giving them any, before we convene them,
Wait a little bit longer.
wait longer until we see whether the bond passes, because that's gonna change everything.
Right. It's up to the board.
I think we should, wait. I think that we have very passionate, different opinions right now. I would hope that we could have more discussion. I think we can come to some consensus, but not right now, right this minute. And maybe we revisit a recommendation next month and allow us to talk and see. I understand what you're saying. I hope you understand my concerns. I just think that we as a board need to spend some time thinking and talking.
We could also integrate this topic into our facility workshops.
That would be a great idea.
We absolutely
Yeah.
can. I think that's good.
If there's consensus, that's come up fairly quickly.
Sure.
Oh, okay, so that's what I'm hearing from you too, and I need to hear from you in terms of your opinion, but, okay, so that we table the discussion for the Olive property, is that what I hear the majority of the board saying right now?
Table.
Or postpone,
postpone direction to the AMAC.
With the exception of just combining all the properties.
But I hear the discussion mostly focused about the Olive property because it's so big and so huge, and now we have to consider, well, we don't have to, but the Vic as well, right? But I would like to talk about Beaumont, because Beaumont is not as big. Beaumont is not centralized to the, well, it is kind of central actually, but it's the topography is completely different at Beaumont than it is at the Olive, so that I would like this AMAC to talk about the Beaumont property. What about that?
They already did though.
You already have their recommendation.
Right, okay, so then we don't, okay,
You
so.
don't-
You have
you
no
don't need
legal
them to do that, they already did
requirement
it.
to get them, because you already have them. You're only required to hold that one
Okay,
school.
why
Maybe that should be a topic that we discuss at the workshop.
We can actually
discuss
talk about any facility
something.
there.
How big is the Beaumont property, but in acreage?
12 acres. I
It's one of
have it
our
on the long range facility. It's pretty, it's one of our
It's one of our
smaller
smallest schools.
Yeah. Yeah, it has some particular challenges. One of the things they reviewed, we can, again, why don't we can put it in the facilities workshop, but it's very expensive to build up, and it's a very compact property, and it has some particular geological features, which is when the AMAC reviewed all that, one of the reasons they came back and said things like joint use and these other things was that seemed to be something that the community would benefit from, but also doable, because there's some limitations for that property, just in terms of dollars to build on it.
Thank you.
So we will absolutely agendize and bring back to you this topic for the board to talk about at the upcoming facility workshops.
As far as giving, I think, as I understood this item, it's just kind of get them started and, they can meet on topics as we, come up with them. And in terms of, following, from this right here, basically it says the committee also suggested the board consider the properties directly adjacent, so the Vic, and be, referred to the committee and for future review. And I'm comfortable with just that and no limitation, and just kind of see what they come back with. And, that'll let them start their stuff. I'm totally comfortable with talking about the topics brought up earlier, in terms of, workforce housing. Let's talk about it. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about what San Diego does, if it's successful, not successful, what do we do because it's declining enrollment? What are we gonna do when we have less teachers next year? Or not teachers, but I'm just saying is the workforce has attrition over years. What are we doing? That's my questions, is like what's the big picture, where's the economic and, stuff going? But I'd be happy to talk about it. So we should have that conversation.
Can we all agree that we will consider, or that we will have a conversation about that at the facility workshop?
Sure.
And that we're going to pause a recommendation to the AMAC at this time?
Okay.
You could do it any month.
And we could even talk about a recommendation at the facility. If we come to a consensus, then we can have it ready for next month.
We would just have to agendize it. So if you have the conversation at the facility meeting, which is the 29th, then we could agendize it at the next
At the
meeting,
next
the next
meeting,
regular.
as an action. Tonight's discussion, whatever your discussion
Yeah.
would have come back in action. on
This is not an action item anyways, so you're already
There's
accomplishing
feedback.
what you needed. You're giving us the
Feedback.
feedback that we needed to move forward. And what I'm hearing from the board is there's two real topics we're talking about. Coming to some consensus on what action you would like the AMAC to take. And dig into the conversation about workforce housing and talk through possible solutions. And those solutions would not just include the old Vita, it would also include Beaumont and the North Ave, which is a small piece of property down here, for which a previous board has already talked about. So I'll make sure we bring all those back.
Can you tell us the acreage on all three of those?
Yeah, we will.
They're listed on our long range facility.
Yeah, so we'll actually all that-
Every site, all this.
Just so that you know, the old Beaumont campus is 9.7 acres.
Thank
So
Okay, so we're just gonna table this for.
Yes.
Okay,
we're good.
all right.
postpone to a further
Yeah,
date.
we're good with it. We have the information we need.
Delays there
Oh,
for.
okay, well, no, we're not taking.
Postpone
those
to
are
a further
later.
date.
Yeah, fair enough.
You're all good, it's just discussed.
All right, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, so we move on to 17A superintendent comments.
I'm good. I think we had a long conversation tonight.
Yeah.
All right, is there any requests for future?
Oh, yeah.
And items or business items?
I've got a bunch, okay.
Okay.
So, all right, they, over next to Monte Vista, they're putting in a housing development,
Right.
and then on York Drive, they're putting in another housing development. The one at Monte Vista, I'm not as concerned about, but the one on York Drive, York, on either side of York is, there's Monte Vista on one end, and there's Honolulu on the other. It's about a mile of land.
I know
And
what
they're
you're talking
putting-
about.
They're putting in more houses. That road is so dangerous to walk on. I know this because I live on it. And there's not any room, there's not enough room for anybody to walk on it and, and I see children walking to school every morning. And they're taking their lives in their own hand. About like 12 years ago, there was even a toddler that got killed on that street because it's just that precarious
Monte Vista.
on York. And so I was hoping, and this is especially directed at trustee Marcus because of his close personal relationship with the board of supervisors. If we couldn't petition, because that's unincorporated county, if we could send a letter or maybe go to a meeting, so like, I'd be willing to do it. Go to a meeting and ask the board of supervisors to actually put in some safe passages for our children to walk to these schools. So I don't know if we need an agenda item to discuss that, but that is what I would like for us to look at, because this is about first line of childhood safety.
You
Because
do not need an item for that.
Okay.
And that's sufficient.
Safe school route,
It's called
but
Safe
for the
Routes.
county,
It's
right?
called
Help
Safe
with
Routes to
the
School.
city.
But I'll
Yeah.
work with Cipriano on it.
Okay,
You don't
well,
have to
and
agendize that.
well, okay, and then since that is my trustee area, it might be behoove you to have me come
Sure.
also and talk. Okay, so I'm willing to do that,
Yeah.
so,
We'll set it up. I can't tell you exactly when, but we will set. it
all
up.
right,
If
Okay.
Trustee Morocco could do it, that'd be better, so I might not see that like,
yeah. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's fine,
perfect.
yes,
But I
okay,
can
but
point
it's
in the
not,
right direction.
yes, okay. And then, the second thing is, our complaint procedure to file complaints about employees is really, not great, and so I would like to have an agenda item for us to discuss alternatives for that. I would also like us to discuss, the expanding the payroll staff, what our CSEA representative, talked about. I think that would be a good, thing to find out where we're going and what we can do to alleviate for that department to give them some relief.
Do you
Then
want
we
it to
had
be
a,
specific to payroll staff or just staffing in general for classified?
well, staffing in general,
Seems as though, because I've heard other people talk about other positions,
okay.
so we'll just do staffing in general.
Okay. And then we had
For
earlier,
classified, by the way, for classified.
for classified, yes, we had an earlier, parent talked about the Lake Elementary TK, I'm not sure if that needs an agenda item or if it's just something for the.
I already have a note on that. We have to
Okay.
put that in the Friday letter.
Okay.
We have the information you need on that.
Right, and then the Allen Daily addendum for that item for his contract to expand it.
And that will, I can't tell you when that will come back to you because he has to get back into town, but it will in the future coming meetings in the next couple of months, we'll get it to you.
Okay.
More likely than not, it will be in September. If I mentioned earlier, if you remember, that it'll probably be when he does the presentation to the community, but I have to verify that with him.
Well, but again, like I said, if we're gonna have to vote on a contract, I'd rather have it, I mean, I'm not sure if he could just put something together about that.
Well, I think it would be unwise for the board to have a conversation about that without Ellen Daly talking you through
Okay,
what your options are.
all right,
I don't think that would be a wise use of your money.
okay, all right. Anyway, those are my items. I told you I had a lot.
All right,
Is it possible to get some information about our land, I guess, our agreements with community organizations or organizations and how much it costs for them to rent our facilities? When they use them for sports, whether it be like an adult softball team or Pop Warner football, so I can get some clarification. I think there might be some rumors about, us charging like ridiculous amounts, but maybe it's true. I don't know. So can you put
Yeah,
that in
we'll-
the Friday
yeah,
letter? and
Yeah,
we
we'll
can
give you
kinda
an
get
update
to
on
the
facility
bottom
use agreement.
of that, please.
Well, and the pay structure, I think is what you're referring to.
Yeah,
Cost structure.
yeah.
Just as a reminder, you will be putting this on additional quiz questions on for
The
excuse me,
website.
so that our viewers can see the answers to these questions we've been discussing. It
That's
doesn't
what we
miss-
normally do.
You do,
I do.
as well as the Friday letter.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you. Cause I know they're all waiting with bated breath.
We got 18 people watching tonight. How many people do we got on Zoom?
Those of you-
18?
Those of you
Five.
still on Zoom.
Five, yeah.
Five.
Yeah, people don't normally watch it during the event, they watch it after. But some of the items you guys are asking for aren't really questions, so we don't put every, I just want to be, sharing with trustee Mark, we don't put everything, we put the things that have answers to questions you ask.
Right.
I don't want people to be upset that we can put every single thing up.
No, no.
Some things we have to research and bring back to you later, but
I think those that,
Yeah,
the ones that you can,
we will.
make sure you put in this.
Anything else? No. All good information, we will follow up on it.
Send us home, Mike, send us home.
Any other comments, questions?
Take us home, Mike.
Okay, meeting is officially adjourned at 9:43.